Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. We're coming at you live from Riverdale Road today. Les Schwab Tires up here on Riverdale Road. I guess what's this, the southeast side of the road. We'd love to have you come by, grab a couple of new tires, maybe just grab some of the popcorn, the bottled water. Just say hi. Les Schwab Tires up here on Riverdale Road. We're going to be here all day having a great time. We have a fun show to discuss today, to get to some of the sound from Alex Jensen's introductory press conference. Gordy Chiesa is going to swing by, as he is wont to do on a Tuesday, a little red and blue. We'll dive deeper into BYU's seeding and placement in the upcoming March Madness tournament. And because the NFL still rules everything in sports, we will talk with Jeff Schwartz at 1 o'clock and have a little conversation about more impactful free agent signings, contract extensions, and the looming question of whether or not Aaron Rodgers will be a Pittsburgh Steeler. All of that on the show today. James Peterson is producing. He's behind the glass down there in our Broadway studios today. James, again, for the second day in a row, I don't get to see your pretty face. It's becoming an issue.
I've heard that before from other people. I don't know how people cope with it, but you're gonna have to figure out a way. No, it was fun last night at the Huntsman Center, wasn't it?
It was a great atmosphere. It was awesome to see Utah basketball in a celebratory mood. There's a lot of work to be done, and we'll discuss that on the show today. But the groundwork is now laid for what we hope will be a relatively rapid turnaround for Utah men's basketball under the guidance of a guy who is taking his first college head coaching job. And we talked about this with Spence during Crosstalk. There's that whole are you going to win the press conference idea. James, I want to make sure I say this the right way. But I was actually pretty thrilled to see that Alex Jensen didn't step outside of himself. He didn't say anything crazy. He didn't try and gas anybody up too much. He just was like, yeah, you know what? I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm excited to be back, and there's a lot of work to be done. And he played it right down the middle without I guess, overemphasizing really anything. It wasn't a oh my gosh, splash of a press conference. It was a guy making a homecoming who knows exactly the task at hand, exactly how daunting everything in front of him is. And I appreciated that about Alex Jensen's responses to questions and about the way that he didn't take a whole lot of time when he was given the podium. He just, that's what we know about Alex Jensen, is he's just more of like I'm just going to put my head down and get it done kind of an individual. And that is the tone set by the introductory presser. That, I think, is going to be the tone that he tries to set in the Utah basketball program. And for me, that's only a good thing for the Runnin' Utes.
I agree. Now, listen, Alex, as far as winning the press conference goes, if that's something that is super important to you, and I didn't know this about Alex. That's the most I've heard him talk publicly. Myself, maybe I just haven't sought it out enough to be able to hear that, but that's the most I've heard him talk publicly. I happen to be there in person too, because assistant coaches don't usually talk to the media, right?
That's right.
In NBA. So I was really going into that with the thought of I'm going to experience Alex Jensen for the first time and see just what kind of speaker he is, how it's going to go. And honestly, he's not the most eloquent speaker. Let's be honest with that. So that's what I learned last night. If winning the press conference and making a huge splash with a lot of charisma and pizzazz and whatever other buzzwords you want to use is super important to you, and that's how you judge winning the press conference, quote unquote. Maybe Alex's press conference wasn't for you. But I think you're right on in the fact that even though he's not the most eloquent speaker, he didn't try too hard to be someone that he's not. And he spoke about it. You'll hear it in some of these clips we might get to today. He spoke about how important it is to be genuine, how players see genuineness, being genuine and being authentic is a very important thing to them as a reason to get behind a coach. And I think that he, even though he's not the most eloquent guy, I think that came across very well for him.
Well, he was asked a couple of different times about, the Majerus connection and what he learned, what to take away, what not to take away from his time under Rick Majerus. And on several different occasions, I think it was 3 different times, he talked about the fact that that's why Rick Majerus and all that craziness worked. That's why it was tolerable for his players. And certainly it was a different era. And the player empowerment situation was a lot different back in the 90s than it is today. I mean, night and day different. Every era has, and it's not even a full era. It's like half eras, right? But he kept saying you accepted it from Coach Majerus and you were fine with him yelling at you or whatever else, I'm paraphrasing, because you knew how much he cared. That's the emphasis for Alex Jensen, and by extension for the Utah Athletic Department, for Mark Harlan, for the Board of Trustees who was in attendance, for the big-time donors. There were Huntsmans and Eccles, and there were big-time Garners. There were big-time people there at the introductory press conference, as is always the case. And Alex Jensen several times talked about the care factor. Yes, with that authenticity, but also the care factor. You have to show people how committed you are. You have to let them know how much you care, because if the players know that you're coming from a place of, I want you to win, I want you to be successful, even a Rick Majerus style, which of course is not going to be what Alex Jensen does. He's not going to be like
He's
that.
He's much more mild-mannered than the stories we hear about Rick Majerus.
Yeah. There's just no way you're going to get a lot of parallels from a stylistic standpoint, but that was the pass that players gave to Rick Majerus. Was you can get away with a lot. You can get away with a lot of huffing and puffing and yelling and throwing stuff if your players know that it's coming from a place of care and commitment and a want for competitive success. Like, these are, I know we talk about it, and I try not to be bad with it, but we talk about it with college athletes, like we call them kids and these young people. And I think we're a little bit patronizing, or at least I am sometimes, when you're just like, oh, wait until the world shows them this or shows them that. And you probably forget, or I forget sometimes, that these are, especially the upperclassmen, these are, and guys that are coming out of the transfer portal, these are now professionals. They're young professionals, but they're professionals. These are young men who are 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, who have some very, very strong opinions about what matters to them, what kind of treatment they will tolerate, what kind of communication style works with them. They have very strong basketball opinions, how much time they should get, how many touches they should get, who should be scoring the ball with the game on the line. Am I a good shooter? Is that guy passing to me enough? Like, all of these things, this is not little league anything. This is now professional basketball with individuals who, yes, their thoughts and opinions on these things will probably evolve over time, and they'll probably start, during their career at Utah and after their career at Utah, they'll start to kind of like shape really who they end up being as individuals. And Alex Jensen's going to be important in that process. But they will see through you. Like, these men, in this case, we're talking about men's basketball, these men will look at you and they'll either respect what you're doing, or they will be like, this guy has no idea what's going on. This guy doesn't know where I come from. This guy doesn't know how to talk to me. This guy doesn't know what I need. The guy doesn't know what our team needs. This guy has no basketball sense, whatever. And that's when you get the eye rolling, and that's when you get the bad body language, and that's when you get people who now have options jumping into the transfer portal. And the first thing that will make players question you is a lack of authenticity. The first thing that will make players be like, oh, man, what did I sign up for, is you being fake, telling them something that you have no intention of following through on, just over-indexing on one thing or another, trying to be tougher than you actually are, trying to be more demanding than you actually are, whatever it is. That players will see through it. And Alex Jensen's awareness of that and how many times he touched back on it and compared it to his time under Rick Majerus at the University of Utah, to me was like one of the main takeaways from this thing. He's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. He's not going to have the communication style. Like, I want to be fair to Craig Smith because we like Craig Smith. Craig Smith, as a basketball coach at Utah, it was the opposite of what I think Alex Jensen's going to be at Utah, where Craig Smith won the locker room, won the press conference, won the media over, was very gracious with his time, was always incredibly eloquent, he would over-answer questions. He would give you more information than you even asked for. It's a super rare thing for coaches nowadays to speak the way that Craig Smith spoke. And we all love him for it, right? But then you talk to some people who were up at that introductory presser yesterday, and they're just like, yeah, but the basketball was lacking. And you're going to get the opposite of that from Alex Jensen, or you're at least hoping to get the opposite of that from Alex Jensen.
Yeah, you expect the on the court performance and the results to be much better than his media appearances.
That's exactly right.
With Craig, it was the opposite. Now I'm not with a couple of the people that we talked to that said that last night, that said that he's not that Craig wasn't a good coach. I think that he overperforming his expectations every year, even though it wasn't at the level that we all wanted it to be, kind of proves that he was and is a pretty good coach. But they certainly did not meet the expectations, and Alex is supposed to be the guy that's going to take it even further and meet those expectations, at least in the way that Larry Krystkowiak did for a few years during his long tenure, and hopefully more than that. But he was not going to wow you in the way he talks.
Okay, but he did have some interesting answers, and James has done an awesome job of cutting up some of the audio clips. Again, if you weren't able to listen live when we had it on ESPN 700 and on 92.1 FM, you can find it in the on-demand section at ESPN700sports.com. You can listen to the whole thing. I think James did a good job of pulling out the most relevant parts of this, and so we're going to give you some of that sound right now and throughout the show today. James, number 2 is a question that a lot of us had, and like, why are you taking this job now? You had an opportunity to stay in the NBA. There are a lot of people who think that eventually he may have gotten his shot as an NBA head coach. Why come back to the alma mater? Why take the job? Here's Alex Jensen's response.
You know, it's funny, like when I've been at a crossroads in my career, timing, it's interesting how things happen. And it felt right. And, through my conversations, I'm extremely diligent, I think, when I make decisions like this. And I talk to a number of people. And, at the end, as hard the decision as it seems, at one point, it becomes easy in the end. And it was, I think the excitement and the timing just felt right for me.
Right. Now, there was a couple of references to the adversity being faced by the Dallas Mavericks in the current moment of NBA basketball. So I am not willing to pretend that the Luka trade, had nothing to do with Alex Jensen's increased willingness or eagerness to take the Utah head coaching job.
Yeah, I didn't leave this in the cut because I tried to keep them as short as possible. But Mark Harlan made a joke about how during the interview process, Alex probably only got half of what he said because he was still reeling from the Luka trade. So and Alex even quipped about it a little bit later. So yeah, you're right. There were some references to the Dallas Mavericks situation. I'm sure that helped him think, you know what? Is there an escape valve to my current situation here?
And look, what we know about his contract in Dallas is that maybe it was coming to an end. Their season is not going to end the way that people wanted it to, so there might be a little bit of a shakeup. And all of that, timing matters with every job offer. Timing matters with every opportunity that comes across your plate in life, whether you're a coach or you're working here at Les Schwab Tires on Riverdale Road or you're just talking about your personal life, whatever. Timing matters, and he repeatedly referenced his wife, who was sitting front row, and their 3 children, and how impactful this decision is for them, how it makes it difficult when he's got 3 young children. Like, I don't know the exact ages, but I believe it's 3 girls. Shout out to the girl dads out there. And they're young, like child in the arms of his wife type young, at least for the youngest. So like that in some ways is probably easier to move your family when kids are so resilient at that age, right? And it'd be harder to move like a teenager out of their high school or something to that effect. But the family matter for Alex Jensen was important. He referenced it several times. And, of course, his wife was all smiles, and his cute kids were kind of the stars of the show yesterday. But this is a guy who had an opportunity to stay in the NBA. And maybe there's some uncertainty because of what's going on with Dallas, but that is the pinnacle. That is the top of your profession. And for Mark Harlan, I've stressed this since the hire was announced, even before the hire was announced. For Mark Harlan to get the job done, to get the deal done with his guy, with the guy that Utah wanted, with the guy that all those boosters that were sitting front row also at the introductory press conference, all of those check writers, they wanted it to be Alex Jensen. And Mark Harlan got this thing across the finish line, and that is something that we should appreciate. And the fact that Alex Jensen was so thoughtful in the process is another thing where he's not coming into this blindly. Of course, he's not going to come into it blindly. He talked about why, it's different than it used to be. Of course, you state the obvious. It's so much different than it was when he was a player here. But, James, let me ask you this. And I'm actually going to put this up as a Twitter poll. There were a lot of questions about Rick Majerus and the Majerus era connections that Alex Jensen, of course, bridges that gap back to the glory days of Utah basketball. And they played the highlight video of him in his super baggy shorts and his super baggy T-shirt underneath the super baggy jersey, which I hope he makes a mandatory look for every player on his team.
It just reminded you how long ago 1998 was.
Oh, my gosh. These guys were dressed like they were in the And One mixtape. It was absolutely fantastic.
You know what? Quick tangent. You know what it reminded me of is they played the highlights of the classic Syracuse UConn 6 overtime game from 2009, the Big East tournament, and I don't like watching that at the time. I'm in high school. I'm like, that's just what they were wearing. That's what you wear when you play basketball. But now watching it back, I'm like, man, even that in 2009 looked way too baggy and all that. So it's
crazy because it like Alex Jensen's highlights. He's wearing stuff that is so baggy, it looks like it would be hard to play basketball.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. Even 11 years later, highlights from 11 years later from that classic Big East tournament game that I'm referencing. Even then, it wasn't as baggy as the 90s, but it still was like, man, how do you play in that?
I legitimately want the new team issue gear to all be like 2 sizes too big, and for Alex Jensen to be like, okay, you got to practice in this. Let's see if you're as tough as me,
yeah.
Just moving under 12 pounds of extra fabric. It was fantastic, right? And I've completely derailed myself from the original point that I wanted to make. But
you watching the highlights.
So
reminded how long ago it was. Yeah,
it was very long ago, and it's bridging that gap back to Rick Majerus, and it felt like everyone, all the gathered folks, media, us included, were just like, yeah, tell us what that was like. Bring us back to that bygone era of Utah basketball that was those glory days. And Alex, I think, was also trying to be like, guys, I've been in the NBA the last 13 years. Like, I've been coaching in the NBA, the association, the best organization in the world, the best players in the world. I was just on a staff with one of the top 5 best players on planet Earth. He didn't say those exact things, but he kept referencing and reminding everyone, it seemed like, that he's an NBA coach. And the Rick Majerus connection is clearly important to the administration, to the boosters, I think primarily, to a certain age segment of the fan base, and you can put me in that category. I'm old enough now to wish for that. But I know that Alex Jensen's connections to the NBA and his experience in the NBA and his recent job as a NBA assistant coach, as an NBA assistant coach, and going back far enough as a D-League coach of the year, That's actually way more important to the job he's going to do for Utah men's basketball. Excuse me. That's actually far more salient for what this team wants from him. Yes, it's cool that he can be like, okay, we used to do this drill. We would run these crazy like ladders up and down the court and get everyone throwing up, and we'd weed out the weak with Rick Majerus doing this stuff. But his knowledge of the way things are run in the NBA and the way that guys want to develop themselves into that kind of a player, that is far more relevant, far more important for Utah basketball and for recruiting and for the NIL pitches and for trying to lure the talent that BYU is getting now and that Kansas has always gotten, and that some of these other teams that Iowa State and Houston and these guys that you're going to have to find a way to beat in the Big 12 Conference. Yes, it's wonderful that you can say, hey, I played for one of the great and most iconic coaches, and the sweater is hanging up there in the rafters, and let me tell you a little bit about this guy. But these kids were born like 10 years after Rick Majerus was a thing. So that's not what's going to speak to them. Alex Jensen being an NBA coach and coaching Luka and coaching AD and coaching Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, that's the thing that these young folks are going to be like, okay, and not just from like an appeal standpoint, but from an actual X's and O's, this is how we do it now standpoint. Basketball is not the same as it was when Rick Majerus was the head coach. You can certainly take away a lot of the stuff that he was excellent at, but the NBA experience is probably what we should be talking about more than the bridge to the past.
I completely agree, and it's especially important in recruiting, which, as we know, is, in a lot of ways, more important than coaching strategy on the floor, X's and O's, as we like to call it. And even the in-state kids who have the most likely to know the name Rick Majerus, even those kids, because of how young they are, they're not even going. It's not going to mean much to them that, hey, you played for Rick Majerus. It's going to mean something that you played in a Final Four, which is a rare thing for Utah basketball. It's going to mean something that you played at a high level, and it's going to mean that, hey, we can probably trust you when you're teaching us these things, when you're putting us through these drills. But what's going to mean the most is exactly what you said. It's going to be his NBA experience. It's going to be the guys he coached and he developed. For big men, and I wanted to ask this question, but they ended up closing off the Q&A.
They cut us off. They cut us off, James.
They cut us off right before I was able to ask the question, and I think you might have been right after me. I wanted to ask, because he's credited with developing Rudy Gobert into a Hall of Famer. Like, that's what he's most credited with as an NBA assistant coach. So I wanted to ask, how is that going to help you attract big men? And with the college game being there's more room for traditional bigs in the college game than certainly in the NBA, how is that going to help you adjust to the college level, like he said, and like he was talking about in the style of play he wanted to employ? I think it would have been an interesting answer from him if we'd had that, but I think that will be something in the same way we saw Larry Kraskowiak being a former big man at the NBA level and being able to attract guys like Jakob Poeltl to Utah. I think that we could potentially see something similar, because big guys are going to be like, oh, you coached Rudy Gobert?
Yeah, and then when you're doing your second layer of research, you can see that Alex himself was a defensive player of the year, in Europe and in Canada. He was an elite defensive player, and that makes sense. Now there are fans out there that are going, oh wait, so we're going to get Utah basketball is going to be like Utah football, where we have great defense and the offense will be a question mark. Well, that's where him making some decisions on his assistant staff is going to be important. But
yeah, maybe a certain former point guard that may or may not be involved.
Knock on wood. Don't want to curse that. I'm not breaking any news today, James Peterson, if that's what you're trying to get me to do.
Are you sure you don't want to?
Before we take a break and come back with Gordy Chiesa, let's play this. The number 6 cut you have on your cut sheet here. as we were just talking about what's more impactful, Alex Jensen's bridge to the Rick Majerus era or his NBA coaching experience, he was asked how his NBA coaching experience will help him with this job.
My coaching journey's been, I wouldn't change anything about it. Like, I remember my first job was with Coach Majerus in St. Louis. And I remember I was playing in Europe and I didn't want to quit. And I flew to meet him in St. Louis. And he asked me, and I think I said yes because I was still scared to say no to the man. Which, there's a lot of truth to that. But, no, it was a great learning experience there. I had other assistants there. Then I went to the D-League and had a great experience there. And then in the NBA, I worked for some great coaches. You know, the college game, I think it's becoming more and more professional. And I think most players are the same. They want to know if you care, and two, if you know what you're talking about. So I think, you know, I've been able to go through that, and I think it'll help me here.
We'll keep playing you the Alex Jensen sound from his introductory press conference, which is available at ESPN700sports.com in its entirety, in the on-demand section also of the ESPN 700 app. Hey, this snowstorm this morning, in case you needed a quick reminder that I really should make sure my roof is dialed in. I need to make sure that I've got everything necessary to prevent damage to the stuff under the roof, flooding and leaks and all that stuff. The phone number is 801-839-4501. Justin Cunningham at Top Local Roofing can help you out with repairs, with a new roof, with a little shingle replacement. How about, as if you're in my neighborhood, a foot of snow is piling up on the roof. How about that heat tape that keeps the ice dams from building up in your gutters? Top Local Roofing can handle all of that for you. Up and down the Wasatch Front, registered with the Better Business Bureau. Top Local Roofing, 801-839-4501. Give them a call and tell them that OC sent you. All right, we'll keep talking about Alex Jensen a little bit. Gordy Chiesa knows him. We'll pick Gordy's brain a little bit more, but it's NBA basketball with Gordy Chiesa next on the Sean O'Connell Show, Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700.
my coaching journey's been, I wouldn't change anything about it. Like, I remember my first job was with Coach Majerus in St. Louis. And I remember I was playing in Europe and I didn't want to quit. And I flew to meet him in St. Louis. And he asked me, and I think I said yes because I was still scared to say no to the man.
That's Alex Jensen talking about still being scared to say no to Rick Majerus from last night's introductory press conference. That sound courtesy of our friends at Utah Athletics. I got a big laugh out of that because I think that dynamic exists for a lot of people who played college sports and maybe even high school sports. I don't know what the dynamic is like in the pros, and maybe Gordy Chiesa can help us out with that. But I know that I can't talk to Kyle Whittingham, even still, 20-plus years later. I can't talk to Kyle Whittingham the same way I talk to everyone else. I certainly can't talk to Coach Ron McBride the way I talk to everyone else. There's like, whether I want to get rid of it or not, there's a sort of deferential tone in my whole approach to those guys because they were, it's an honorific. They were the coaches. They were like the leaders of your youth. And Alex Jensen was still scared of Rick Majerus even after he'd been a pro basketball player in Europe. Awesome stuff. Gordy Chiesa, our resident basketball guru, joins us now on the Sean O'Connell Show. Gordy, welcome. How are you?
Sean, I'm doing fine. And getting back to about coaching, that's the authority in a good way that the players respect, and that most coaches, when they're with the guys all the time, they're such impactful on their lives. So what Alex Jensen's alluding to is that Rick Majerus had such an important segment of his life that even as years later, he couldn't say no to him. And that's perfectly normal. In Jazz basketball, Jerry Sloan had the exact same impact on the players where his force of nature was able to get these star players to respect them for all the right reasons. And that respect is mutual. It's both from the coach to the player and from player to the coach, but it's a different dynamic. So years later, there's still that unbelievable intensity in a great way as far as before game, after games, as the players remember to the ultimate.
Who still has that effect or had that effect on Gordy Chiesa? Is there like a Sister Mary Catherine from your youth, the old private school teachers that you never were able to get out from under? Like, I better be respectful to these individuals.
Oh, the answer is yeah. It was actually a nun. You're right. But I was in college. St. Thomas Aquinas College. As a matter of fact, they're playing tonight to get to the National Division II semifinals. So they're really a high-powered Division II team. So when I was a fake student teacher, emphasize fake student teacher, 50-something years ago, is that my student teacher advisor was a nun, and that she had such an influence where she passed away over the years. But when she was still alive, after I graduated, many years later, I was in the pros. I would talk to her on the phone. I had the exact same relationship with her where I couldn't tell her no. So she said to me one time, can I have tickets for a Knicks Jazz game in the Garden? And, at that moment I didn't have them, but I had to scramble like a half a day to try to get them to give it to her. I couldn't say no to her.
That's fantastic. I also love that a nun was asking you for Knicks tickets. That's fantastic. Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. One time, Sean, we played the Dallas Mavericks, and these nuns were in habits on the baseline. And so me being a devout Catholic, I went over to the nuns before the game. I said, please, sisters, I know you're praying for the Dallas Mavericks, your favorite team, but please say a prayer for our guys to make some foul shots tonight. They're laughing at me.
That's fantastic. So we've talked about Alex Jensen already. We were just debating kind of, it's wonderful that he has the connection to Rick Majerus and that the glory days of Utah basketball. But I think after listening to the presser and really just thinking about it, his NBA connections are probably more impactful for Utah basketball now. It's probably more meaningful for the Runnin' Utes to have a guy who spent so much time around elite players in the NBA, not 20 years ago, not 25 years ago, like a month ago, a week ago. Is that a correct assessment, Gordy? Is his NBA connection the more significant value for Alex Jensen here?
Yes, very much. That's how the players think this generation, that guys would say Utah level, that they feel that the better players can be drafted and get to the NBA. So Alex Jensen's been there in the NBA for decades, And so he'll be able to help them, guide them. And that's the big, huge part of it as far as in the portal recruiting and also possibly junior college or high school international. And it's locally here that the Utes just counted BYU as far as with Kevin Young having the exact same street cred with the players being with the Phoenix Suns, and now it's Alex, formerly of the Dallas Mavericks. So it's absolutely important. It will help you in recruiting overall.
So a lot of the questions yesterday were kind of about the team identity and certainly how he's going to fill out his assistant coaching staff. And, you're a longtime assistant as well. How collaborative is that effort when, let's say that he hires Andre Miller, like everyone hopes, and, maybe he gets Burgess to come back, whatever, like in a perfect world. How much are those guys, how much is the role of an assistant coach to help establish that tone, establish the culture of a program, or is it like, hey, I'm Alex Jensen, this is how we're going to do it, and you guys are going to step in line with it? I imagine it fluctuates based on personality, but I got to lean on you, someone who has a ton of assistant coaching experience. How involved are assistant coaches typically in establishing the culture of a program?
The ultimate, absolutely. They're the ones in the front line. So what you want to do is that the assistant coaches, you want to empower them because they're with the players literally all the time. And they're a buffer between most times, but with a loyalty factor, which is a huge part of it, is that between the players and the head coach. And so they're going to be with the guys as far as player development and all the ups and downs, ebbs and flows of a person's career or struggling or playing wonderful. And so it's huge. They help. The players are the system. The head coach and the coaching staff is the culture. And so there's two different things. So Alex Jensen is going to establish a culture there, and the players are part of the system with the assistant coaches coaching up sometimes the players, but also coaching up the head coach. It's very lonely when you're on top, meaning top of the apex as far as in business. You're the CEO or CFO of a company. Who do you go to for advice? You might call some of your contemporaries, but in that building, you have to have someone around you that you trust, that you can bounce ideas off and not seem that I'm not sure what I'm doing or I'm lacking confidence. And I've been in situations where, including with Jerry Sloan, where he would tell me things about what he's feeling about the team right now, and that it's almost like you want to coach him up because it's all part of the ups and downs, the mental fatigue of being a high Division I coach, the pressure, and also as far as in the NBA where there's so many games. And then, Sean, in the NFL, it's even more magnified because there's only one game on a weekend. So you lose that game on that weekend, and so suddenly the whole week after that, you're moving forward. But in the back of your mind, we lost last week. There's so much pressure, to win the next game.
Gordy, I know that in the fight world, this is something I always would try to describe to people. You have 5 bad seconds in a fight, and your next 6 months is ruined because it takes a long time to recover if you get knocked out or whatever, and then you got to train for another fight. Sometimes it's hard to get matchups. I envy the ability of basketball players. You have a bad game, you might be playing it back-to-back. You might be able to wash that out the next night. Depending on the sport, you might have to, I can't imagine how it is for Olympians. 4 years you got to wait before you can redeem yourself? It's nuts.
Yeah, very much. So think about you're a world-class swimmer. You have a bad tryout as far as trials, and you don't qualify. So maybe you're one of the best in the world, and you don't qualify to get to the Olympics. It's devastating, and that shows you how hard it is to be an elite athlete at the top of your profession. And that's why it's so unique that these players can last for a long time. Whether it's the NFL, usually as a quarterback, whether it's a 40-year-old relief pitcher in baseball, or whether in basketball, it's someone that's 37, 38, 39 years old. Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, LeBron over age 40, they're still playing at a high level. And part of it is besides the physical ability, it's the mental part. Usually speaking, when your performance goes lower, is that your body is slightly breaking down, but mentally you're not preparing yourself to play well in the game. So I always talk about, it's time to retire when you're not putting the preparation mentally to play well that game, that month, that year, etc.
Gordy Chiesa for a few more minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking all things hoop. Gordy, how do you eliminate or at least minimize the impact that money can have on the dynamic between players, their teammates, and coaches? This was not a thing in college basketball, at least not legally, even 5 years ago. Now it is. So how does Alex Jensen and every college coach make sure that is less impactful in their program?
Well, the first thing is that you have to attract talent. So you have to have an X amount of dollars now to get these players because you're going to pay them. Those are the rules. You can't fight it. Don't even think about it. So whatever the rules are, you have to understand it and embrace it and then try to figure out what's best for your players. And so now you have to coach these guys. So these guys now are age 18, 19, 20, both male and female. They're basically young professionals.
Yeah.
So you've got to get them now to do things that innately they don't want to do. And that's based on what? Your personality, your ability to teach the game, your instinctiveness of you coach everybody fairly, but everyone also differently based on the player's personality. So, example, when I coached Karl Malone for 16 years, I coached him slightly different than I would another player because of his personality and his stature in the league. Yet, we treat everybody fairly. And that's what Alex Jensen will have to do right now and all the different things. I'm looking forward to Sean with March Madness in this sense. That we'll know about this, we'll say 5 years from now. What is the impact on the NIL money towards winning? In other words, so we'll have the data within starting, like, say, right now, 5 years from now, what teams won the championship and how much was their player's salary as far as their situations. And I imagine the football, in the college football, Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, full of blanks, and Notre Dame. I imagine they're going to do studies also about it. What impact does money have towards winning? Now, in the NBA and the NFL, it's almost equal to money, give or take.
Yeah.
Now it comes to what? Coaching, players, leadership within the rank and file. These are all things, the intangibles, why good teams always win and lesser teams usually hardly ever win.
All right, before we get to your list, Gordy, tell me how the Denver Nuggets beat a Warriors team that had been hot and has been hot since the trade deadline, since they acquired Jimmy Butler. The Nuggets, for people who don't know, sat their best players last night, and still, I think it's 9 in a row now that they beat the Golden State Warriors. How does that happen?
Yeah, very much. So Nikola Jokic didn't play, either Jamal Murray, either Christian Brown. Some of them they sat, some also was injuries. How they did it was there was a letdown by the Warriors, who won 7 straight games in a row to that point. So the first thing was the Warriors' point of view. The second thing, the Nuggets did not cooperate in a good way. Aaron Gordon was sensational. Season high, 38 points, 14 for 23 from overall, 6 rebounds. But here's the one about it, Sean. Russell Westbrook set a record last night. Now, I know Russell plays sometimes with both teams during the exact same game. I get it, which he does. So Russell Westbrook-type players, I talk about it for decades, it should read Denver Nuggets on the front part of his jersey, and their back jersey part of his jersey should read what? The Golden State Warriors last night. But last night he had it rolling. Triple-double, 12 points, 16 assists, 12 rebounds, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. That was the first player ever in the history of NBA basketball with those numbers. So 12, 16, 12, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. So that's how they did it. So Aaron Gordon had a sensational shooting night. Russell Westbrook was absolutely great. And Michael Porter, double-double. Let down by the Warriors, the Nuggets. Who cares the Nuggets' point of view if they won now? So the Nuggets, they won on the road, and they're tied for the Rockets for second place in the Western Conference, which is highly competitive at 44-25. With the Lakers, they get LeBron back relatively soon. Lakers are in the 4th seed right now, 42-25. So they won it because the Warriors didn't respect the Nuggets because the main guys were not there. And that just shows you that the mental, I mentioned earlier about the mental focus of preparation. You've got to treat everyone with respect. Otherwise, you're going to lose.
What's the list today, Gordy?
Our list today, Sean, is March Madness. We'll get more into it on Thursday, and I love March Madness. This is a short list of the most Final Four appearances by a school. Most Final Four appearances by a school. I cut her off at 6. So these schools have 6 Final Four appearances. They are University of Arkansas, University of Cincinnati, University of Houston, University of Michigan, Oklahoma State University, Villanova, and Syracuse. This one school has 7 Final Four appearances, including national championship in 2024, UConn. These next 2 schools have 8 Final Four as far as appearances. Indiana and University of Louisville. Next 2 have 10 Final Four appearances. They are Michigan State and Ohio State. Next one, singly. With 16 Final Four appearances, Kansas University. Next 2, third most ever, with 17, University of Kentucky and Duke. The second most Final Four appearances of all time, UCLA with 18, and the number 1 all-time leader in most Final Four appearances for a university are the Tar Heels, the University of North Carolina. Been to the Final Four 21 times. Our last year's Final Four, I was asked this question earlier today, Sean. People forget how selective memory. Here's the Final Four teams of last year. UConn from the Big East, Purdue from the Big Ten, Alabama from the SEC, and North Carolina State from the Atlantic Coast Conference. The last time the Utes were in the Final Four and segue with Alex Jensen was 1998, when the 3 star players were Andre Miller, Michael Doliak, and no other than Alex Jensen.
And that is the glory days that everyone's hoping Utah basketball can get back to under the new head coach, Alex Jensen. Gordy, it's always a pleasure.
Think about 21 times to the Final Four for Carolina. It's hard to
Unbelievable. And this year they barely got into the tournament, but we'll talk about that and the conspiracy theory associated with it later in the show today. Gordy, you're the man. I'll see you on Thursday, all right?
Thanks, Sean. Peace out.
Gordy Chiesa, our NBA insider. We're up here at Les Schwab Tires in Riverdale, on Riverdale Road. Come hang out. And we're going to take a quick one here. We'll come back with the general manager of the Les Schwab Tires. Chris is going to sit down with us, tell us what they got going on. Stay tuned. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. We're actually not in the Murdoch Chevrolet studio today. We are at Les Schwab Tires up on Riverdale Road. Come see us, 627 West Riverdale Road. We got some swag to give away. Chad's going to, I don't know, he's going to hand out $5 bills or something. Chris is sitting down with us, the general manager. Is that your official title, Chris? Are you the general manager of this Les Schwab location?
Store manager.
Store manager?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we were talking about Alex Jensen, new head coach at the University of Utah. And if I'm not mistaken, you're relatively new in this position. So how's it been establishing the culture so far, getting this program the way you want it to be?
It's been great. I mean, all the employees have been excellent. Very smooth transition. It's been excellent.
We love Les Schwab Tires. They help bring you the Sean O'Connell Show every single day here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. You guys have some great deals going on right now, but also the #1 tire warranty in America.
Yes, we have America's best tire warranty.
What does that mean?
Basically, we get that is you're going to get no hassle road hazard protection. That's going to be any damage to the tire that's beyond repair, like a nail in the sidewall or a hole in the tread that's just too large to fix. As long as there's still legal, usable remaining tread, brand new tire, absolutely free.
Wait. If I drive over a nail,
Yep.
that's not your fault,
Nope.
but you're still going to take care of the customer.
We sure will.
What if my tires get slashed? What if my crazy neighbor stabs a knife into my tire?
It's a little bit different with
Okay.
That's going to be more something for your insurance or something. But
Okay. Well, there are limitations, but
yeah,
it is-
there are some limitations.
It is America's best tire warranty and a 60-day satisfaction guarantee. What is the 60-day satisfaction guarantee?
Well, with that is if there's any kind of issues with those tires or excessive road noise or they just not what you're looking for, bring it back. We'll get you into something that you do like.
How do I know that Les Schwab's going to be around if I have any of these problems?
We've been around for a long time, and there's many locations.
70-plus years Les Schwab Tires has been in business. That was the low-hanging fruit there. I mean, we see businesses come and go. We've had partners on the radio come and go. Les Schwab has been a constant in this community for years and years and years, and not just as a reliable source of tires and warranty and business, but also you guys are constantly giving back to the community.
We are. We sponsor a lot of different programs from youth sports to 4-H and FFA, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. We support a lot of different programs.
All right, I want to get people up here to Riverdale Road. Take advantage of a deal. What kind of deals are we running right now?
Well, right now we do have some instant savings on select tires. We also offer free pre-trip safety inspections, so getting ready for spring travel and everything like that. Bring it down. We'll check out your tires for you, your air pressure, your tire condition, brakes, shocks. Check out your battery, wiper blades, everything.
Come check it out, 627 West Riverdale Road. And Chris, for all of my fellow Niner fans out there, he is a Seahawks fan, so I give you permission if you come in to, make your transaction, get your tires, take advantage of the great discounts, the warranty, but you are allowed to talk a mild amount of trash on the Seahawks. Right, Chris?
Bring it on.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you having us up here. Again, 627 West Riverdale Road, right off the Riverdale Road exit. Just head east towards the mountains and come say hello. All right, we got another great partner on the show that is they're back, and I'm excited that once again Farmer and Chemist down in historic Midvale is part of our team culture, so to speak, here at the Sean O'Connell Show. If you are experiencing a little restless leg syndrome, maybe you got some sore muscles, maybe you just have a hard time sleeping, they've got something for everybody. This is a situation where maybe you've tried the traditional medicine, maybe you don't like the idea of pumping yourself full of pharmaceuticals. Farmer and Chemist just might have the answer for you. And the beauty of Farmer and Chemist is you're not just walking into some random gas station and grabbing a product that says CBD on it. We're talking this is pharmacist-directed product development, recommendations for you. Whatever your situation is, they've got something for you. Doug from Farmer and Chemist, kind enough to join us again. Doug, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great today. How are you?
Well, I'm doing fine, except I had a foot of snow on my driveway and my sidewalks this morning. And, Doug, your boy's not in as good a shape as he used to be, which means when I'm trying to shovel that snow, every once in a while, the old lower back starts to flare up. Do you have anything for me at Farmer and Chemist?
Oh, man, it is a problem today with all this snow. But, yes, of course we do. Farmer and Chemist has a beautiful rub-on product called Problem Salve. You take a little bit of this ointment, rub it on your lower back, and your pain will simply disappear within about 10 minutes. It's an amazing anti-inflammatory that really reduces all of the painful inflammation in that lower back and makes you feel like you can go out and shovel another foot.
Doug, if someone's out there listening right now and they're like, okay, I'll rub a topical ointment on, I'm not worried about that, but what if I don't want, what if I don't want anything to show up if I've got like a mandated drug test at work or something like that? Are there CBD products available that are not psychoactive, that are not going to ring any alarm bells for folks that are in that situation?
Yeah, that's a great point. First of all, the topicals, you're totally safe. You can use those. You'll pass your drug test. If you're a firefighter, a policeman, if you're in the military, drive heavy vehicles, all that totally safe to use anytime. But certainly there are times when you don't want to have that psychoactive effect like you were saying. That comes from THC, and Farmer & Chemist has 0 THC products that can help you reduce stress, reduce anxiety, get better night's sleep, and reduce pain. And you'll pass your drug test. No THC involved at all.
Salves, gummies, tinctures, face creams, they really have it all down in historic Midvale. The shop is beautiful. It's amazing. And also, you can go online. Farmer & Chemist has a great selection online as well. And a special discount for our ESPN 700 listeners. Right, Doug?
Absolutely. Mention ESPN 700 if you drop in the store at 7719 South Main Street in historic Midvale, or online using the promo code ESPN 700 at farmerandchemist.com, and you'll get 20% off your entire order.
I know your shoulders and your back are sore today, shoveling all this late snow. So holler at Doug and Farmer & Chemist and get some of that Problem Salve. I've used it. It really is a fantastic product. And I am one who was always one of those people who's just like, is this going to be okay for me to use? I don't want the psychoactive effects. Nothing. It just feels great. Makes those muscles relax and feel a little bit better. Takes away that pain. Doug, you're the man. I always appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you. Take care.
farmerandchemist.com. Make sure that you drop the ESPN 700 name to get that discount. They're taking care of us at farmerandchemist.com. All right, quick little break, and then we'll come back with some red and blue. BYU, the 6th seed. And I think I was listening last night on ESPN 700 as I was driving home from the press conference, and there were some predictions that this is one of the upsets, that VCU is going to take down the mighty BYU Cougars. We'll see what Jerem Jordan has to say about that when we get to Red and Blue next on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Coming at you live from Les Schwab Tires on Riverdale Road up in Ogden. Come say hello, take advantage of the great discounts, the lifetime warranties. Grab a little Utah swag. We got some pens. We got some stadium bags, the bags you can actually take into the stadium because they're clear-sided. Swing by 627 West Riverdale Road. Say hello. So, James, I've been patiently waiting, and just every day I run out to my mailbox and I check the stoop and hope that there's going to be a special delivery of one of the Cougar Tails, the special edition flavor blueberry Cougar Tails. And I thought Jerem Jordan was going to come through on that, and unfortunately, nothing yet. So maybe it was lost in the mail. Maybe the mailman ate it himself. I don't know. It's the only explanation I can come up with. But Jerem Jordan joins us now for a little bit of red and blue on the Sean O'Connell Show. Hi, Jerem.
Sean, I believe it was, Billy Madison on the game show at the end? I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Oh, unfortunate. Welcome back to the show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Heading out today to go to Denver for the tourney. Can't wait for the Cougs to make their first Sweet 16 since 2011. I'm feeling great about the matchups, about where BYU's at, how they've been playing the last month. Couldn't be more excited, man. Let's go.
Okay. Is there anything to my my thought that you needed, even though it was ugly, you needed to have that kind of collapse against Houston? You needed to have a bad game in the midst of this hot streak that BYU's been on, because you can't run into the NCAA tournament expecting – it would have had to have been, 17 wins in a row if they went through Big 12 and then NCAA tournament victories. And so I was like, even though it's probably to the chagrin of a lot of BYU fans, I think it actually sets you up for a little bounce back, a little recalibration, that the Big 12 tournament did not result in a tournament championship for BYU. Is there any validity to that?
I mean, you can handle it how you want to handle it. I think BYU, I personally would have loved to have not had that. I would have loved for BYU to have matched up with Arizona or Texas Tech. Texas Tech was undermanned with two starters out. Arizona was a matchup that BYU had won one of those two. I would have loved to have gotten to that title game and just had a shot there. But Houston's a bad matchup for a lot of teams. BYU's not special in how they played against Houston. The only reason people aren't saying Houston's the hottest team in the league is because they've stayed hot. You ignore the team that is consistent. BYU got great the last month. So Trevin Nell said what you said, which is hey, we got pumped, and this is good for us, and we'll rebound. All good. Honestly, once Selection Sunday happened, the Houston game was largely forgotten because you're on to the next thing, and BYU basketball is feeling good about the 6th seed. They're feeling great about Denver. That was the greatest possible site, obviously. And it's a matchup with another A-10 champ. That's what Duquesne was last year, but I think BYU's learned some lessons with kind of the core four that returned, that they're like, hey, we're not going to allow that to happen. And nobody's going to be tougher than Houston defensively. And so you've kind of felt that recently, like you said, and now you can attack it in a way that's a little more feasible with VCU versus Houston.
Okay, let's dive into the VCU matchup just a little bit. BYU, of course, for those who haven't looked at their bracket yet, 6th seed. VCU, the A-10 champ, and 11 seed. And I just don't know where VCU is better than BYU, if anywhere. But you've done a lot more research on this matchup than I have. Why is this such a favorable draw for BYU?
It is favorable, yet it's difficult. I'll first talk about VCU. So defensively, they're number 23 in the country in efficiency. Number 1 defensive effective field goal percentage team, meaning they make you take tough shots and you don't make as many as you think. They're number 12 in offensive rebounds. They limit opponents to a low percentage from three, under 30%. That's top 15 in the country. They don't allow a lot of teams to score a lot of points. You don't shoot well. They block a ton of shots. They're top 10. That's all makes you aware, right? They have some good length. They have a freshman, Luke Bomboye, who is blocking a ton of shots. The rest of the starting lineup is all 5th year or more guys. They have Jack Clark, who's the 7th-year guy. He was on the Elite 8 team with Clemson last year. People will remember head coach Ryan Odom from Utah State, obviously UMBC before that, pulling off the big upset. Max Shulga was at Utah State for 3 years. He's the A-10 player of the year for VCU. 5th-year guy. He leads them in points, assists, steals, three-point percentage. they've got some length on the inside that they protect the rim well. They get up in you on the perimeter. What BYU can take advantage of is, one, tempo. BYU likes to run. They have one of the most efficient offenses in the country. Two, at altitude. Also, VCU played Saturday and Sunday. BYU did not. They played Friday. A little more time off. VCU's got to travel. And then three is, finally, BYU's in a power league. They're battle tested. They played 15 quad one games, won 8 of them, and have won amazing road games. This BYU team, I dare say, is the most prepared from the schedule of any team in BYU basketball history. VCU is not Houston, and that means BYU is going to win this game.
How chalky is their little quadrant of this bracket, you think? It's BYU, VCU. The second round matchup would be either Wisconsin or Montana, St. Mary's, Vanderbilt, Alabama, Robert Morris. Also in that little leg, do you expect Wisconsin to move on past Montana? Have you even taken a look at that? I mean, I think Alabama's going to be there eventually for BYU if they get far enough.
And then Duke is sitting there at the end, right? So it's like, if BYU got to that point, let's go. Like, come on. And frankly, BYU hasn't won a first round, not first round game since Jimmer Fredette in 2011. So it's been a hot minute. Like, BYU makes the tourneys, but the standard right now is not to win that game. I think that changes starting Thursday. I think the standard changes that BYU expects to not only get to the tourney but win, because one, they have just a great coaching staff and great players, but two, there's too many resources not to being put in this program. So, yeah, I expect Wisconsin to beat Montana. Hey, I'd love Montana to beat Wisconsin. Set yourself up for a better game. That's what happened, by the way, in the second round with Jimmer Fredette in 2011. St. John's was the 6th. Gonzaga was in 11th. Gonzaga upset St. John's. So BYU beat a 14 Wofford and an 11 in Gonzaga. Like, it's not BYU's fault who's in the next game or whatever. So take care of business against a tough VCU team. Wisconsin just lost the Big Ten title game on Sunday. They have the number 13 offense in the country, number 27 defense. That's a tough matchup. But frankly, against everybody not named like Houston, Tennessee, and St. John's, I really like BYU's offense against those teams. And then perhaps it's Alabama in the Sweet 16. If you get there, that would be amazing. Alabama's been a number one team this year. They're really good. Their big man is hurt. We don't know if he's going to be in this tourney, Grant Nelson. That's a team that's been to the Final Four. Nado's doing a great job there. We'll worry about that when we get there. But, like, if BYU can get out of this weekend, and I believe they will. I've been saying Sweet 16 this week. I'm feeling great. Are the blue goggles on? Sure. But also I watched BYU go to Arizona and Iowa State and win and beat Kansas by 34. Why wouldn't we feel like BYU could absolutely make a run finally?
Jerem Jordan, little red and blue here, talking some BYU hoops ahead of March Madness. They'll be in Denver against VCU. That is a 2:05 Mountain Time tip. A couple days from now, that game on TNT. BYU is a 3.5-point favorite as of right now. How healthy is BYU? You mentioned Alabama, the question there. Obviously, Duke expects to have Cooper Flagg back and available. There has been some debate on whether or not Friday's a worthy day for him to even try and test things out because of what that matchup's going to be. And health matters at this point in a season. How healthy is BYU?
He's very healthy, luckily. Dawson Baker has had his foot in the boot with a bit of an injury there, but he played just fine and actually played pretty well in the Big 12 tournament. Cannon Catchings is still day-to-day. They're still figuring out if he can play. He hasn't played in about 4 or 5 games. And frankly, if he can play, that just adds to one of the deepest, best benches in America. There's literally 10 deep right now. Cannon would make it 11. And so I don't think he takes anything away if he's adding. I think he adds. 6'9", and he's exploded in certain games. And if that's one of the games and it's VCU, that's great. So we'll see. I think BYU's in a very good health spot with veterans, with his Richie Saunders and Yegor Demon and Keba Keita. Everyone's doing great right now. They'll leave here in about an hour, and then they'll get a shoot around tomorrow on the court, 115 to 155. They'll do the real practice elsewhere. That's for the fans. Just get some shots up, and then Thursday, as you mentioned, 2:00.
Let's operate under the assumption that this is a team that heads at least to the Sweet 16. I think that's very realistic. Whether folks want to hear me say that on the home of the Utes or not, they're playing great basketball. If you get there, right, we see guys every year in the tournament that the rest of the country probably hasn't watched a lot of BYU basketball. I'm the same way, right? Like when when Yale has like a Cinderella run, it's not like I've been dialed in on Yale. So I'm going to see some random Yale kid and be like, oh, I love that guy. Who is the country going to fall in love with from BYU basketball if they can put something together here?
The Tater Tot King, Richie Saunders. And how about that story last week? His great-grandpa basically
to the Saunders family if they are the
right?
reason that we have tater tots. I love me some tots. To the Saunders family if they are the
right?
reason that we have tater tots. I love me some tots.
Oh, give me some of your tots. He told me in the locker room after the Iowa State game, I said, was that a thing in like middle school when you were younger? Did kids know that? He's like, yeah, I would tell them I had a tater tot pack. Like they would, if they had tater tots, they had to give me a couple because my great-grandpa invented it. I was like, dude, that's money.
That's awesome, but also a little bit backwards because if your grandpa invented them, then you should be able to have constant access and not have to steal them from other kids. Now, don't get me wrong. I would have done the exact same thing. I'm like, give me that.
No.
Give me some of your tots.
Give me some of your tots out of your pocket. What's funny is, so his great-grandpa invents them, and then he and his brother invent Ore-Ida, the company. They sell it to Heinz for the equivalent of modern-day $441 million.
Woo!
As soon as his great-grandpa dies, the great-grandma decides to give all the money to the government. So the Saunders did not inherit all this money. He's not a trust fund baby.
I don't like that part of the story at all. But
I don't either. I'm like, what happened?
Like, I thought you were going to say give it to, like, the church or give it to something like the 4-H club of Pocatello.
Dude.
What? Oh, man. That is a poor decision. I don't like that. That is not the turn I expected that story to take.
Great-grandma stinks.
Come on, great-grandma. What are you doing? Jerem, how good are you at obscure mascots?
I think I'm okay. I don't know that I'm great, but I work in collegiate athletics. I should know so.
Okay. Do you mind if I quiz you a little bit on one or two?
Yeah.
Okay. Texas Tech. I'm starting with
Red
the Big
Raider.
12 team. The Texas Tech is the Red Raider. They play UNC Wilmington.
Ooh.
Do you know the UNC Wilmington mascot?
I don't know that one. I have no idea. The Vikings.
Okay. UNC Wilmington Seahawks, of course. How could you get that wrong, Jerem?
I should know that one.
Yeah, the UNC Wilmington Seahawks. We actually had a terrible revelation yesterday that Lipscomb, do you know the Lipscomb mascot?
Bison.
Bison, yes. According to ESPN, it is the Bisons, which I think is grammatically incorrect.
Oh, that's weird. It's getting a little possessive.
Isn't the plural of bison bison? I don't know. I don't like that one.
I thought so. I thought so
too.
This
one I think you're going to get. I think you're going to get this one. Houston's first-round matchup is against SIU Edwardsville. Do you know SIU Edwardsville mascot? Don't overthink this one, Jerem. I'm giving you an opportunity. This should be very easy for you. Wink, wink.
Are they also Hoosiers? Oh, Cougars.
They're Cougars, yes.
Okay.
The Houston Cougars, the BYU Cougars, the SIU Edwardsville Cougars. That's the 116 matchup.
Nice.
All right. I love an obscure mascot challenge, and I think you performed admirably. Before I let you go, the BYU football team in spring ball had a 90-play scrimmage. What information were you able to glean from that?
0. I was in Kansas City at the Big 12 tournament.
Okay, fair.
I don't know
enough.
anything, but from what I'm hearing, BYU's feeling really great about this spring. Good leadership, good culture and systems in play. They feel like they can recreate what they did this last year, but the new sort of chip on the shoulder is no one thinks we can actually win the Big 12 title or make the playoffs, as opposed to last year, which was like 4.5 wins, 5 wins. You're 13th in the league. It'll be interesting to see how BYU handles success this year. And they've got some nice additions, but they didn't go portal heavy. They like the guys they have internally. They're adding a couple of pieces here and there. They feel like that's the model.
Well, it worked last year, and we'll see how it plays out this year. The dynamic on campus and down there in Provo, like, look, at Utah right now, there's a glimmer of optimism because of the Alex Jensen hire for the basketball program, but everyone is like, okay, what's going to happen with spring ball? We need to know if this team is ready to improve. Spring football, Utah football right now is the main draw on campus. Is BYU basketball, because of this success, because of the hype around the team, because of AJ DeBonsa coming pretty shortly here, is it carving away any of the spring football attention?
It's all men's hoops right now. Football is surprisingly quiet. Like typically, I joked that spring football was the second most popular sport at BYU previously, but yeah, no, men's hoops has been on fire since they hired Kevin Young, and then they added Diego Demon, they added Cannon Keshin. We got like it's been on fire. Then football took that juice back with a great season, but men's hoops has been popping since the Alamo Bowl ended, and it's going to keep going. I mean, the fact that you're 17 in basketball and football finished top 20, an incredible season for those two programs, and it feels like they're continuing to build. It's not like a one-off situation here.
I haven't spoken with Kalani Sitake or Jay Hill or anyone else recently, but I got to believe that they love the dynamic right now where they're allowed to just practice and do their thing, and like they're kind of in the shadows, at least relative to how it's been in recent years. Let the attention be on basketball while they, they're out there on the field in their lab. I don't like that dynamic at all for everyone else in the Big 12 because like an undistracted, unbothered Kalani Sitake, no thank you.
The only thing that really distracted him recently was he gave the weekly devotional address last week, which was incredible, by the way. Other than preparing for that monumental talk in front of the entire student body and whoever else wants to watch it, yeah, they've been dialed in, and they've been just able to focus on them and getting healthy and installing more plays and getting these backups ready that maybe key players in certain positions. Men's hoops has their turn, and then football will get its turn as well. So the dynamic is awesome down here. Not to mention BYU winning an indoor national championship in the distance medley relay for the women. That was exciting. And men's volleyball ranked in the top 10. Gymnastics regionals coming up. So all kinds of things are happening.
Where does Kalani Sitake rank among BYU coaches, current or former, as an orator, as a speaker? Because he is so – I mean, I'm unabashed with my affection for Kalani Sitake. He was my position coach for a brief time when he was a coach at the University of Utah. He's just a great person. And every time I see him doing, whether it's he's speaking to a camera or whether the camera is just kind of observing him with the team, I'm more and more impressed by how he, in my opinion, walks that line. We know what he is. He's not just a head football coach. He's also a face of a franchise. He's a spiritual face of a franchise because of the dynamic at BYU. And he seems like he touches on all points in a really authentic way for me. So where does he rank as an orator?
100%. And in this world of fake, you get a genuine person like Kalani Sitake. Kevin Young, very genuine too. Like down to earth. Like he's more business-like in his approach, I would say. Like Kalani will have fun with you. In season, Kalani, he's dialed in. Kalani, when he's mad, now that's another level too. We've seen that. I love that. But as an orator, I thought he did a great job. You know what's funny? Lavelle Edwards actually spoke in general conference during the 1984 season in October. I didn't realize it was during the season recently. They probably beat Utah State by a bunch, and then the next day he's talking to the church via the satellite system in the stake centers all over the world. That was quite the move. If Kalani did that, in general conference, that'd be even more incredible. But yeah, Kalani's up there, dude. He's a great dude. And to your point, like you can't just be a good football coach here. You have to understand the aims and the missions and what the board of trustees want, what the members of the church need, and whatever that like BYU. You have to be more than a football coach, which is a big ask. Yet Kalani Sitake has done an incredible job there. And Kevin Young, we just talked to him today, talked about how he knew it was like more than basketball, but he didn't realize like the pride that the alums take in this, what it means to the fans on the road, what the fan base is like nationally, the attention that BYU draws. He's kind of understanding what it means to be in that chair.
I didn't know it was a possibility for Kalani to maybe speak at conference. I now need an all-star lineup. Okay, I don't know if they're taking requests, but I need Kalani Sitake opening for Holland, and then we'll finish off with Uchtdorf maybe. Like, let's go.
What's really funny is years ago I heard like a youth speaker, Jack Marshall, who taught at the University of Utah Institute, and he was speaking at BYU to some youth, of which I was one at the time, and he said, "Hey, it's great to be down here at the School of the Quarterbacks. I work up at Utah, the School of the Prophets," which was really funny because there was a good line of youth. What's funny in general conference now, I'm looking for the ex-BYU athletes that talk. You've got Devin Durant, who's a member of church leadership with the 70s, played basketball at BYU. Visika Hema, Brian Taylor, Gifford Nielsen, obviously. So there's a handful there. So yeah, we're waiting for the members of the church who played at Utah who get into the leadership, and then we'll have this kind of tally of how many youths were there, how many Cougars were there.
All right, I like that. Oh, Jerem, great stuff as always. Appreciate your time. Enjoy Denver, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Sean, and don't forget tater tots, Richie Saunders.
Yeah, thank you to the Saunders family. And wow, if anybody out there stumbles into a few $100 million, don't just turn it back over to the United States government. Okay, they're already coming for enough of it in your taxes. You don't have to give the rest back.
Amen and amen, bro. Thank you.
That's Red and Blue with Jerem Jordan, part of our Big 12 at Noon coverage brought to you by Mountain Land Supply. Visit mountainlandsupply.com. Stop by any of their physical locations. Make sure you come hang out with us here at Les Schwab Tires on Riverdale Road. Pardon me. We're at 627 West Riverdale Road. We got the stadium bags. We got some pens. And more importantly, they've got America's best tire warranty and great deals going on right now at Les Schwab Tires. All right. We didn't get into this yesterday because obviously we were talking about in anticipation of the Alex Jensen press conference. West Virginia snubbed by the NCAA tournament, and their governor wants to fight about it. There's some conspiracy layers to this onion, and we're going to get into it next on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700. The 2025 Big 12 Gymnastics Championship is this coming Saturday at the Maverick Center. Comes to be the best of the best. Of course, that includes the University of Utah's Red Rocks. Get your tickets now at maverickcenter.com. 2025 Big 12 Gymnastics Championship featuring the Red Rocks. James Peterson, how dialed in are you on this feud developing right now between West Virginia and North Carolina over the West Virginia tournament snub?
Oh, you mean the 68th best team and the 69th best team in the country, according to the committee? Is that what you mean by West Virginia? No, yeah, it's wild. Listen, North Carolina doesn't deserve to be in the tournament. I'll say that right now. They are not good enough. They're not good enough to be in the tournament. But also, what drives me nuts about these, especially when it gets to government officials who definitely have more worthwhile things to be focusing on. What drives me nuts about these passionate arguments is that we're talking about the 68th, the 69th, the 70th best teams in the country. If you were good enough to make the tournament, you would not be a bubble team. So it's a flip of a coin at best. Yes, Carolina probably shouldn't be in, but your team doesn't have much of a better argument either. That's why you're a bubble team.
Well, Patrick Morrissey is the governor of West Virginia, and his quote was, "West Virginia deserves to be in the NCAA tournament. This is a miscarriage of justice, robbery at the highest level." I assume that's how he talks.
That's an incredible Southern accent you just turned on there.
I do love miscarriage of justice, robbery at the highest level. I am with you. One thing that I love when politicians at least give a little lip service to sport. You know, it's part of American culture. It's definitely something.
Talk about your fandom. Talk about it in a way that is not like this. That we need government oversight of sports. When they don't talk about it that way, yes, I'm all for it.
Just imagine being a resident of West Virginia, which, by the way, is the fourth poorest state in the country. There's a lot of things in West Virginia that need to be improved upon. Infrastructure that got damaged. They got a little bit of the strays from that big storm that messed up North Carolina. West Virginia has much bigger fish to fry, and he's out there at a podium, stumping for legal action against the NCAA because West Virginia was deemed to be the 69th best team.
He called him a shoo-in, and it's that's not what a bubble team is, my guy.
They did have 6 quad 1 wins.
Yeah,
so
5 more than Carolina had.
There's a case to be made, and here's where it's actually really shady and really messed up. And this is exactly why James Peterson is a fan of the North Carolina Tar Heels.
Exactly, because it's shady, and because they do what it takes to win, even if it's illegal. Yeah.
So the committee chair, the head of the selection committee, is Bubba Cunningham. Now, as is the case with college football, my name's Bubba Cunningham. These are just phenomenal characters in a Southern soap opera about college basketball. So there are a lot of people who don't think that North Carolina deserves that selection, right? Well, Bubba Cunningham is the athletic director at North Carolina, University of North Carolina, prestigious job, beautiful campus, great athletic history. Obviously, they've started to make more impact in football and other places. It's not just a basketball school these days. But North Carolina and their athletic director, they had to thread this needle. They had to play the careful game of allowing Bubba Cunningham to be the chair of the selection committee, which means that any discussions in a playoff selection or a bracket selection that involve North Carolina, you have to recuse yourself from. Bubba Cunningham has to step out of the room and let his colleagues handle that without him so that he does not offer any sort of biased opinion, willingly biased or subconsciously biased. Doesn't matter. There are rules for this, right? And he maintains that he was never a part of any discussions on whether or not North Carolina should be involved. It does start to stink a little bit, James Peterson, when you find out that a tournament appearance for North Carolina does trigger a $106,000 bonus for Bubba Cunningham.
Yeah.
So while
wait a minute, how can I get my hands on that money?
$106,000. So I mean, now maybe, just maybe, he's not involved in the discussions directly about whether or not North Carolina should be in as a bubble team. But you can't tell me that nobody in that room, that his friends in the room, that his colleagues in the room, that somebody in the room was not like, well, how about we split that? How about we go halvesies? If I can make sure, if I can campaign for this, if we can trigger this bonus for you, I'll take $53,000. You can buy me a little car. Look, it just, you don't want there to be, and I'm saying most of this tongue in cheek, but that is a insanely bad look for the NCAA selection committee when the Tar Heels got special treatment, not just because they're a blue blood, which would already be aggravating enough, but also potentially because the committee chair gets a bonus when they get in.
Yeah.
It's gross.
It's not a good look. In these situations, you definitely would like to trust in the professionalism of the men in the room, but it's a bad enough look that it makes you think, especially if you're the governor of West Virginia or a West Virginia fan, or Indiana's another team. Their fan base has been waving their fists at the committee because not just Carolina got in inexplicably, but Texas also was looked at as a bubble team that's probably not going to make it, and they put both those guys in instead of West Virginia and Indiana. If you're a fan of one of these schools, you're the governor of the state, whatever. Yeah, there's enough reason for you to look at those facts and go, could there have been something nefarious happen here? Especially if you're feeling pretty upset about it. Yeah, it's not a good look at all. They probably need to – I mean, there's so many ADs. There's so many conference commissioners. There's so many other professionals in this game that could sit on these committees. Maybe we need to do a better job of making sure that the people in these committees are not representing schools that are in the tournament. Now, that's probably an impossible ask, though, because you don't know who's going to be in the tournament.
The thing is, the tough thing about that is you would have to just pick representatives from bad athletic departments.
Yeah.
Right?
And they don't have the credentials to be picking these teams. Yeah.
And you don't necessarily want that to be the case, but we saw this with football, right? Where, if you're the his name's escaping me right now, but Oregon's athletic director was the chair of the committee that year that Utah played Oregon for a conference championship game, and he had to recuse himself from all of those discussions about playoff inclusion and whatnot. And you don't want to create an environment where the big brands, the North Carolinas and the Texases, I think the two teams that James just mentioned, have no voice, because they need to have a voice. They are drivers of basically everything in college sports. But if you're always going to err on the side of, this big brand team gets in, then you have to be willing to deal with the perception that there is an internal bias, that there's a deliberate internal bias to continue to feed the mouths that are already very well fed.
Yeah.
And that stinks. Look, Indiana is fine. They get to benefit from being in the Big Ten Conference and the revenue associated with all that.
They probably see it as a bit of a slap in the face, though, that they're not considered as big a brand as Texas in college basketball now.
Yeah, in college basketball, which is wild, right?
Yeah.
But in any case, at these things, there's always a fly in the ointment, even with something as pure and wonderful as the NCAA tournament bracket. When you get down to the debate between whether or not you should be 68 or 69, a little self-awareness goes a long way.
Yeah.
And you can be like, we're probably not going to win much anyway here. And this is the argument against further expansion of the college football playoff, by the way, because it's never going to stop. When it was only 4 teams getting in, there were, I think, some legitimate contenders that had a case as to why, hey, that's unfair. We're the 5th-ranked team in the country.
Team 5, Team 6, maybe even Team 7. And it's like, hey, we could win this whole thing.
Yeah, we could win this whole thing. And look, that's when you go by the seeding, Ohio State did the first year of an expanded college football playoff.
8th seed.
So, that kind of proved that point.
What an underdog story, OC.
Yeah, the Cinderella Ohio State Buckeyes with their $30 million payroll. But this is the argument against further college football playoff expansion, because right now it's 12, It's going to expand to probably 16, and after it expands to 16, there's going to be a number 17 team that is like the fifth-place squad in the SEC that, like this year, like LSU, like Ole Miss, is just going to be like, hey, what about us? And the rest of us are going to be
win more.
When do you draw the line, right? In basketball, you draw the line at 68 teams. Yeah. 68.
It was 64 for the longest time, and, that for some reason made total sense because there's 16 seeds in the 4 regions. 16 times 4. Oh, that's 64. For some reason, that made total sense. I don't know why. I'm not a mathematician. But 68 makes even more sense. So, I don't know. The number, adding more, Dan Patrick's been awesome on this forever. Every time any expansion gets talked about, particularly in men's basketball and women's basketball, the same number of teams, he goes, is it not supposed to be a rare thing to make the tournament?
Yeah, well, it's supposed to be a
special thing, a special reward.
Yes, it's. I mean, this applies to every walk of life, right? When you start to be like decorating very average things, and be like, hey, congratulations on that C+ performance. You now get to, and this is why bowl games. People got really bothered by bowl games. When there's 60 bowl games available, and teams that are sub 500 on the year get invited to the bowl games because of their academic progress rating, people are just like, okay, like
I can't take that seriously. Yeah.
Where's the limitation here? I mean, and I get it. Yes, when you're a member of that coaching staff, you're a member of that team, you're a member of that sports community, you're like, oh, that's cool. We had kind of a bad year, but we still get to play in a bowl game. The average fan is going to look at it and just be like, why would I care about a team that couldn't even go 6-6? Why do I want to watch a 5-7 bowl team against an 8-4 bowl team? It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, so there has to be a gate, right? We talk about gatekeepers all the time on social media. Social media, people are screaming about gatekeepers all the time, but there has to be a gate. There has to be a limitation, or else the accomplishment doesn't mean much. So I'm against further expansion in the NCAA tournament, and I'm sure the governor of West Virginia is like, we need 76 teams, just like Brett Yormark says so. And it's just because your team missed it one time because you couldn't get a couple more wins to strengthen your schedule. Like, that's honest. These bubble teams, it's honestly 2-3 more wins on the season, and you really are a shoo-in. So it's you just got to do better.
Here's what you can do to make it a larger NCAA tournament. Because people now, in this modern era of college football, and that's going to bleed over into college basketball, because people don't care about conference championships anymore.
Yeah. Just
eliminate the conference tournament and add another round or two to NCAA tournament. 128 teams. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Everybody's in.
Everybody's in.
You know how obscure the Obscure Mascot Challenge would get if we were doing 128 teams, James?
You would see you're pro expansion because of the Obscure Mascot Challenge.
That's absolutely right. I 100% am.
I see where you're going here. Yeah, it's just I don't know these hand wringing over the teams who were absolutely hosed though. The bubble teams are absolutely hosed though. It misses me a lot. Now, while also acknowledging that my favorite team, North Carolina, got in probably undeservedly. I still go, you just got to win a little bit more, and then you don't have to worry about a blue bud making it in over you. So I don't know. It misses me a little bit.
All right. Sean O'Connell Show coming at you live from Les Schwab Tires today up on Riverdale Road. Come swing by, grab some swag, and replace those tires. They're getting bald anyway. Come say hello to us and Chris and the crew down here. They'll hook you up with a lifetime warranty on your tires. 627 West, Riverdale Road in Riverdale. Right off that exit, head east. We're on the right side of the road as you drive towards the mountains. Come say hello. All right, Deion Sanders has an idea for the Colorado spring football game that is actually genius and spectacular, and yet no one is going to go for. I'll tell you what that is next on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. $627 West Riverdale Road. That's where you could find us today, hanging out with great deals from Les Schwab Tires. Chris is the brains behind the operation here at this particular location. Joins me now on the Sean O'Connell Show. Chris, thanks for sitting down again. I got a weird question for you to start it off.
What's that?
Do you like the smell of tires?
Don't even notice it anymore.
See, okay, I thought that might be your answer because I walk in here, and I love the smell. I don't know why. I walk in, and I'm still noticing it. I've been here a couple hours. I still notice it, but I guess you go nose blind after a while if it's your daily life.
Well, kind of the weird thing is I could come in here on my day off, smell hits you like crazy.
Really?
When I'm not supposed to be here, that's when I notice it.
But when you know it's a work day, you don't even notice it at all.
Nope.
All right. Well, the brain works.
Weirdest
in
thing on
various
earth.
ways. Yeah, it's very strange. Tell me about the $60 instant savings you guys are offering right now.
Well, basically, you come in for a set of 4 tires, $60 instant savings.
Simple
Just
as
like that. Simple as that.
I walk in, I'm just like, hey, I got a Mazda CX-5. That's what I'm driving. Do you have tires that I can get an instant savings on, or is this like
Absolutely.
very specific only?
Nope.
Wow. I love it.
Very simple.
Les Schwab hooking you up. We talked about it last time. I want to keep emphasizing this. The best tire warranty in America, 60-day satisfaction guarantee. Anyone who comes in here, you're going to make sure they're satisfied.
Absolutely.
How long is it if someone's out there and they're driving around and they're like, yeah, man, these tires are getting pretty bald. There's snow on the ground today. These roads are getting pretty slick. Now's the time. I'm going to go to Les Schwab. If I'm going to get those tires, I'm going to take advantage of $60 instant savings. If they come in today, how long is it going to take for you guys to replace 4 tires?
We could have the 4 tires done within an hour.
So grab your lunch, come in, hang out on the tables in here. They got a TV over in the corner. They got popcorn. They got refreshments, and slap some new tires on that vehicle because it's still winter. We're mid-March and we're getting winter storms, Chris.
It's crazy.
I don't want to blame you for it, but it's a good way to sell tires. You know?
It was 65 yesterday. This is kind of not quite what I'm used to, but it's awesome.
How many locations do you guys have up and down the Wasatch Front? If people aren't here in the Riverdale area, but more than one, right?
Oh yeah, we got plenty. Pretty much every town's got one.
Your neighborhood Les Schwab. You can go to leschwab.com, find the location nearest you. I would prefer you come up, you say hi to me at Riverdale, and like I said before, not only is Chris a Seattle Seahawks fan, he's also a Kraken fan. The Kraken on this road trip stole one from the Utah Hockey Club, so come in and just express your distaste for that fandom. Chris will still give you a great deal on tires.
I still will.
All right, you're the man. Thanks for having us up here at Les Schwab Tires. Again, come hang out with us at 627 West Riverdale Road. And if you come in a little bit later today, that's fine. If you're here after my show is already over, tell Chris that you heard it on ESPN 700, and he's still going to take great care of you. 627 West Riverdale Road. All right, let's talk about this idea that Deion Sanders has for Colorado spring football. James, have you seen this?
No, I haven't taken a look at it.
Okay. Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, yes, that one. He has expressed, as everyone else is de-emphasizing their spring football, and we talked about the paranoia that permeates these coaching staffs, and they're just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to show off anything. Deion Sanders wants to make this more of like an NFL model, a hard knocks kind of a situation, and he wants Colorado to have an opponent from another school for their spring football game. No one's going to go for this. And
so
it's
a month long of joint practice? Is that what you mean? Or for the football game? Is that what you're saying?
For the spring game, like make it a meaningful scrimmage. Make it something that actually matters. And I get it. You got to mitigate injuries and you got to worry about that kind of stuff. So there's plenty of reasons why other coaches would maybe not want to do this. Here's the thing, though. You want to drum up interest. You want to actually justify a ticket cost for a spring football game that is going to go directly into your NIL fund or whatever. Having I hesitate to call it truly meaningful, but having a real exhibition game instead of just this like thud pads, shoulder pads and helmets only type of scrimmage would make spring football a little bit, just a smidgen of an event. And I love the 22 Forever game. I hope we get to keep it forever. I think it's awesome. I've just accepted the idea that it's not going to be competitive until you get down to like the third and fourth string guys who they don't care if those guys get hurt, Let those guys play. And by the way, you could make the game this. Call it the Futures game. Call it the Rising Stars Challenge like they do at the NBA. And instead of having, like, have the JV team from Colorado play the JV team from TCU. Or make it like a rivalry instead. Do it like Colorado and Nebraska. They're not in the same conference anymore. You're not going to get a lot of those games scheduled moving forward.
Colorado State.
Like, let's do
maybe.
it, man.
Yeah. Well, I even think make it an in-state thing. It's instead of, and maybe not instead of, but we talk about the big time Power 5, now Power 4 schools inviting their FCS teams or group of 5 teams in their state to play a game at their stadium, and they pay them a huge amount of money to get their heads knocked in, right? Do that in spring with this spring football game. Be like, hey, come here, like here, Weber State. Come on over to Rice Eccles Stadium, 22 Forever game. Help us raise some money for our 22 Forever Foundation, and we'll split something. We'll split the profits from something that as part of the game that go to our NIL funds.
I can't tell you how much I would rather see Utah play against Southern Utah as a spring scrimmage.
Utah Tech.
Than see them open up their year with that game, actually.
Yeah.
I know people like, well, you need a tune-up game and stuff. All right, fine. And you would have to, again, it's never going to work. It's never going to happen because you'd have to create some odd rules. You'd have to create a situation where, like, for the incentive was still there for the Weber State or the Southern Utah or the Utah State, where you'd have to put a moratorium on transferring from that place to the University of Utah, because otherwise you're the guy who's at Weber State and you go play Utah and you ball out in that spring game and you're the star of the show for your team, even though you probably get beat up on by the Power 4 squad. Now the coaches from the Power 4 squad are just like, oh, hey, turns out you can actually play. You were a problem for my guys, so let's go. That's why maybe it's better for you to do it like a Rising Stars Challenge type of situation. But
yeah,
spring football,
something different can be done that makes it, as you were saying, more meaningful. Yeah,
and I tell you, like,
more entertaining.
I know that people have like kind of a beef with Deion Sanders. I don't always understand why. My only beef with Deion Sanders is how profound his blind spot for his own kids was. But I have very small children. I'm sure we're going to get to a point when my kids are punk teenagers where I don't react to them the same way that I probably should. That's my only beef with Deion Sanders, that he seems to set a great example for everyone except for his own kids. He doesn't demand like that high level accountability. Not even so much with Shador, but with Shiloh, that dude was a problem. He was like throwing punches and talking trash to other coaching staffs and whatever. Neither here nor there. People take a stance before Deion even opens his mouth on whether or not they're going to agree with his ideas, because he's a polarizing figure. Either you love everything he has to say because you're on his team, or you hate everything that he has to say because you're on the opposite side of the aisle, whatever that means. But it very much is that political dynamic. He has that kind of like Stephen A. Smith type of reaction from people. He has the like a Donald Trump type reaction from people, or a Kamala Harris type reaction from people. And it makes people deaf to what he's actually trying to say. When a head coach is out there saying like, hey, let's do something more meaningful. Give me a reason to make this game important to my program and to other programs. There's nothing bad about that. There's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and give he and other head coaches a reason to risk the exposure that they're clearly now afraid of how often people are entering the transfer portal and transferring out of their programs.
Well,
that's the fear that's driving a lot of this. Hey, let's just not even have a game.
It has to be said that Coach Prime can come up with an idea like this because his team is more the destination than the team that is the roster gets stripped down. You know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like he's the recruiting, he's the transfer recruiting destination more than he is the guy that's going to lose important talents to somebody else, a higher bidder.
Yeah, it's probably feels like, well, it's convenient for you to say something like this, Coach Prime.
And he's probably like, look, I'll go snag some more talent. I'll get some more guys here. Anyway. All right, we got to take a quick one here. Jeff Schwartz is going to join us next. And Jeff, I know Jeff is a big fan of the obscure mascot challenge. So we'll get into a little bit of that with him, but also more big contracts being signed in the NFL. Still no decision for Aaron Rodgers. We'll touch on all of it with the NFL veteran Jeff Schwartz next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. I don't know what neighborhood you live in while you're listening to the Sean O'Connell show today, but if you live up and down the Wasatch Front, you got anywhere from like 3 to 12 inches of snow on March 18th. I think we're probably all over it, but you're especially over it if you're sitting by the window last night at your house and the wind was blowing and maybe you felt a little draft come through. Maybe there's just a seal, an imperfect seal on those windows. Time to call the number one replacement window company in the state, Advanced Windows, or go to advancedwindows.com. $2,500 off 10 windows or more for their spring special. 801-850-9100. Tell them that OC sent you. They will hook you up, and they will handle it all in-house. Sales, installation, warranty service, lifetime warranty, by the way, is all done with no middleman. They pass that savings on to you, and they will take care of you and your windows for the life of the home. AdvancedWindows.com. Jeff Schwartz, my good friend and longtime co-host and NFL veteran, joins us here on the Sean O'Connell Show to start off hour number 3. Jeff, welcome. How are you?
It's like 70 and no humidity today. It cannot be a better day in Charlotte, North Carolina.
I don't like that, okay? I literally, Jeff, there were 12 inches of snow. I'm going to send you a picture. I'm going to text you a picture of what my deck looks like right now. 12 inches of snow on my deck this morning. I'm not a fan of that in mid-March.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. I wouldn't want to live there either. So, I mean, it's super hot, obviously, in the summer here in Charlotte, but otherwise, very, very nice to be here. My kids are getting in the car right now, so if you hear a couple of little voices, that is them.
Okay. Well, you know what? Since the kids are in the car, maybe they can join us for the Obscure Mascot Challenge, which is something that I know you enjoy, and I absolutely enjoy.
Yes.
We're not going to spend a ton of time on this, but brackets are out, and this is a fun thing to do. Obscure Mascot Challenge, one of the play-in games, scheduled for 4:40 p.m. on True TV in the South region, is the Alabama State blank against the St. Francis, Pennsylvania blank. First up, Alabama State. What is the mascot, Jeff Schwartz?
I'm going to go Hornets.
You got that one right. How did you know that?
I know one of the, regional Alabama schools is a Hornet. I just guessed that was the right one.
That is the correct one. Alabama State Hornets. Jeff Schwartz with a point in the column right now. All right, St. Francis, Pennsylvania. What is that mascot?
Okay, so that's so. Am I going with the religious school theme here? St. Francis. So it's I'm gonna go. Providence is the Friars. Are they also gonna be the Friars in the same region? You know what? I'm gonna go with the Padres.
Okay, the Padres, yes. We know that Pennsylvania has that very strong Spanish Catholic influence. No, unfortunately, that is incorrect. James, do you have a guess on St. Francis, Pennsylvania?
Let's see. St. Francis Gales.
Good guess. It is actually the Red Flash. The St. Francis, Pennsylvania Red Flash.
So there's Red Storm and Red Flash at two different religious schools. Interesting.
There's a lot of red going on the East Coast. St. Francis, Pennsylvania Red Flash, Alabama State Hornets 16 versus 16. All right, Jeff, let's talk about what we actually brought you on to talk about. I put a poll question out yesterday, and I always like to get your opinion on these poll questions. We're reaching this threshold now in NFL football where position players, guys who are not quarterbacks, are averaging $30 million plus per year on some of these contracts. And I know it's all about the guaranteed money, but the average annual value is a sexy number that we like to talk about. And which position is most worth $30+ million per year? It's not the quarterback. I'm not letting you say offensive line because, of course, you're going to say that. If you have to choose between DB, wide receiver, defensive lineman, which of those, you're the general manager, are you willing to give that kind of a contract to?
Pass rush. I think pass rusher. They're just so hard to find, right? There's not a lot of them. They tend to be really high draft picks as well. Like wide receivers, you can find good ones in the 3rd round, the 4th round, the 5th round, the 6th. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a 2-time All-Pro in the 4th round. Puka Nacua is a 5th round draft pick. You can find them all over the place. You cannot. Myles Garrett, right? I think his first pick overall. Micah Parsons, I think he was the 11th pick. The Bosa brothers, Von Miller, all these guys are all first-round draft picks, and so they're just very rare to find them, and you got to pay them if you can find one of those guys. So I would say pass rusher.
Yeah, I think that's where I come down on it as well. Derek Stingley Jr. from the Houston Texans got a $30 million contract as a corner. I get it. It's great to have a shutdown corner. That's a big chunk of your salary cap, and I know where your quarterback contract is matters in all these things. But that's a guy that you're spending a lot of money on. And in the best case scenario, I guess he takes one half of the field away or one offensive weapon away. But that's a lot of money to spend. Whereas a pass rusher can affect the entire offense by making a quarterback's job that much more difficult.
Yeah, but I think that there's if you draft and develop a corner, paying him is not a bad thing. You know, like you need those guys too. It's not that the Texans skimped on other guys to pay Stingley. Like if you're choosing between a pass rusher and the defensive back, I'd probably choose the pass rusher. But it's not like they have willingly not addressed pass rush. So I get it. It's a lot of money, and it might not pan out in the end. But you have to spend money, though, too. That's one thing people don't realize. I think, like, there's a salary floor. Now it's over a 3-year window. You got to spend, like, 92%, I think, of the salary cap. So you do have to spend money for some of these teams.
Moving on to my favorite team in the NFL, the San Francisco 49ers. You know I love a good fullback because, well, that's what I had to finish my career as. Kyle Juszczyk was cut by San Francisco and then brought back. It was a quick little turnaround. How common is this? I mean, it's a headline, and I was thinking about it. I don't remember the last time I saw a story like this, but it doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
I mean, it's probably over money, right? I mean, he probably wanted a certain amount of money. They couldn't agree to it. So he released them, and they both realized, like, well, I'm not getting any more money elsewhere. And the Niners were like, I can't find another fullback, so let's go find a solution. And it's a relatively modest deal, right? It's like, I think two years, $8 million. So, I mean, Probably more like a 1-year deal for 5 or 6, you know? So it makes sense for them to come back together. The Niners, though, Sean, I mean, just feels like they're going through a transition period right now, right? They're figuring out how to lean out some of their roster. They have 12 draft picks this year and just get ready for a new roster around Brock Purdy, I would imagine, is the plan here. So it's very interesting to see what they're doing sort of on the fly here. They're doing a massive roster, rebuild essentially.
I'm almost embarrassed to ask you about this because I'm more sick of the story than most people are. But, Aaron Rodgers is a master of keeping his name in the headlines just by keeping people waiting in this case. And other guys are talking about him. Right? Is he going to be a Steeler? Where's he going to end up? Sports Illustrated right now has a headline that he might wait all the way up until the NFL draft before he makes a decision. Is the NFL over Aaron Rodgers yet?
I hope so. I'm over Aaron Rodgers. I mean, just make your mind up, bro. Like, what are you waiting for? You have two options. It's really the Giants and the Steelers. The Vikings are not offering you a deal because they don't want you. If you don't want to play, then they just don't play. But you're keeping a lot of these teams in limbo. I found it so interesting that they took those paparazzi shots of him on the beach in Malibu. Do you think he set that up?
Probably. I mean, I really do think that he's got this kind of like masterful, whether it's him or it's his publicist, they find ways to stay in the news, even when he had a terrible year, and the whole Jets thing was an absolute disaster, and yet still at least half of the publications that you read about him are like, hey, he could be a difference maker, and I don't know that that's true anymore.
It's not true, and I think the thing that is hard is that he seems like a bad locker room guy's a wrong term, Sean, but his team seems unhappy, if that makes sense. And, like, if you bring him to the Steelers or the Vikings, it just seems like not a great fit for what those cultures want to be, bringing in Aaron Rodgers. So that, I think, is a huge concern for me, is especially in Minnesota. Do you want Aaron Rodgers to mentor J.J. McCarthy? If you're Pittsburgh, you're like win now mode, this young wide receiver in Pickens. I know you got DK, but you have young offensive linemen. Like, is he going to bring in all Aaron Rodgers guys? Is he going to – Pittsburgh is obviously, we know, with their ownership and Mike Tomlin, like, is very rooted in in the team, right, and what the team does and what the Steelers do. Aaron Rodgers going to conform to the Steeler way? Are they going to? So I think there's just a lot of what ifs in these situations that make it tough for Rodgers to have find a home, I think.
Jeff Schwartz, my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking all things happening in the NFL, and it's a bit of a soap opera season, which I love, only because there's no actual football going on. But the DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons feud, what sort of unwritten rules are being broken here by guys like subtweeting each other?
Well, I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence probably took an unfair shot at the Cowboys because he was supposed to help them get to where they want to go, and he didn't. He's been hurt a bunch and hasn't performed as well outside of really kind of 2 contract years. So it was just felt unnecessary for him to say, like, hey, I came to Seattle to win a Super Bowl essentially, but it's like the Seattle's not going to win a Super Bowl either. So why are we going that direction? And then obviously Parsons called him a clown, which I mean whatever. But my favorite too is then Lawrence went back at him by saying that basically like call him a podcast bro essentially, right? Which is what Damian Woody called him before as well. So I no surprise I think here from Curmudgeon Schwartz, but I don't think a lot of the players should be having their own podcast. I think it kind of hurts them in the end. But I understand that in this era, these players grew up with social media, right? They grew up in this era of using these platforms to have a voice. So I understand why they want to do it while they're playing. But especially when you start losing, people just start blaming podcasting, social media, and it's something you want to be in that space if you're an athlete. So I kind of find it funny that he called them basically like a podcast bro. But Parsons is tweeting about other teams like other teams and their moves and free agency, which to me is just stunning. Like this is not something that I ever grew up, commenting on social media. Like that's sort of a no-no, talking about other teams' free agent moves while you're still playing for different teams. So again, it's a different generation though. I mean, I understand, these guys using social media different than I did.
It is, I don't know how the right way to characterize it. It's interesting to me that players seem to be very excited and eager and willing to jump into the media space when a lot of them don't like the media, but then they are preparing themselves to be media sooner rather than later. So I don't know where the line of demarcation is between what kind of media you like and what kind of media you don't, but it's obviously a great career path, guys that move from playing into media. You've done a great job of it, and a bunch of the best analysts are doing that same thing. But do guys do it with the large thought or the grander view of like, hey, I'm going to be on that desk someday, so I might as well get myself ready now? Or is this more like you're saying, is this like you're raised in the social media attention currency generation?
I don't think Michael Parsons is thinking about his future after he's done playing. I just think he grew up in an era that he just wants to give his opinion, and there weren't platforms to do that when I played. And I think also too, like we didn't do it. Doing media was frowned upon, right? But now, it's not. It might still be in the building, but it's certainly not frowned upon from Parsons' angle. So I don't think he's thinking about the future. I know at the end of my career I started thinking about that, but he's in like year 4, and he's one of the best players in the NFL. Year 8, when I was beat up and old and getting fat, I thought about my post-career. I did some media stuff and whatnot, but I don't think that he's thinking about the future right now. I think he just enjoys sharing his opinion about football in many different platforms.
All right, we were talking about spring football a little bit earlier today. Now, what's Oregon's plan for spring games? Are they already done?
Dan Lanning said he will play a spring game as long as he is there because he's not scared. So, and he's not soft, and he's not trying to get out of doing it. Oh my God, someone might transfer afterwards. It was funny that our favorite team, USC, like I saw they were one of the first teams to cancel the spring game. It just like it perfectly fit USC. Like the easy way out. Sign me up. Sign me up. Like okay, Stark doesn't want to do it. Fine. He's been He's been a playoff 2 years in a row. Like very tough physical team. But I was like, oh, USC skipping it. That's just like perfect for USC's brand. Like already kind of soft and like skipping an opportunity to hit each other. Perfect for USC. I think they should play. Dion yesterday said he's trying to find a scrimmage, an actual opponent to play in the spring game. How about that, Sean? That would be fantastic. Now I would love that. That's extremely dumb for both teams, but I would love it. I would watch it in a heartbeat. Who's gonna scrimmage Colorado? Like, is Colorado State gonna sign up? Or like, is a School of the Mines gonna hey man, who's gonna a spring game scrimmage?
Well, nobody. But this is the balance you have to strike if you're. I have some relationships on the Utah State staff, and we were talking about this because they want to be a big-time program. They're joining the reconstituted Pac-12 conference. They've obviously had some success in football, basketball, these different sports, but they're very self-aware. They know the niche that they fill, and that their NIL funds are not the same as Oregon's. So, like Dan Lanning, he gets to stand on this high horse and say, oh, I'm so worried someone's going to transfer out. Well, he can offer a blank check to the kid to make him not transfer. Utah State can't do that. Colorado State can't do that. And that's why I love Dion's idea. I want there to be an actual spring game. And I think that this is – you could even replace the nobody, lame tune-up game at the beginning of a season where some FCS school is getting $1 million payout to go lose to Colorado. You could achieve that for both programs by doing a spring scrimmage where you get Colorado State to come in and you say, here's $1 million. This is when we're going to do it. It gives us a longer runway if there's bumps and bruises involved, if somebody gets injured, whatever. But it really is a strange dynamic for the Colorado State in that case, because if a kid balls out, if they've got a quarterback who throws on Colorado's defense for 400 yards, Dion's going to walk over on the after the game and say, hey, you should be a Buff instead of a Ram. And I don't know how you fix that for the team that needs the money. I don't know how you fix it because they want to protect their players.
Well, you close the portal window before the games.
We talked about that. That would be smart.
That would, and I think the spring window is going to be closed. It's going to close even sooner than before, and maybe eventually be eliminated. That's the answer, right? If you just close the portal, then it allows teams to have their spring games again and be free again. The thing about it's a little bit worried. How many players are transferring in the spring every year that are difference makers? The answer is almost none. But the spring is not the window for that. The window typically is the winter for that.
Yeah.
So, if someone watches Oregon play and be like, well, there's that third string right tackle. He looked kind of good in a simulated scrimmage. Are we getting I don't know if this is an actual worry that should be happening, or whether coaches just want to do less hitting that time of year. Like Texas basically said the idea was look, we've had a lot of football for 2 straight years. I just don't want to do this. It's basically their reason, which I get. But it also could be a reason for coaches just to say, look, we this is a situation to get hurt. We just don't want to do it anymore. But look, man, you know my argument for years about spring practice. I think it should be open to the media, to the public. I think it's the opportunity to make your fan base really excited for the season. I think it should be just open access. You're not even installing all your good stuff. It should just be open to everyone. Now, I get the portal makes it difficult to do that and whatnot, but you should allow and you should have people coming for excitement and be able to watch practice and be excited for the season. I hate that these are closed for the most part. No information leaks. I mean, I'm waiting for Oregon to post 4 photos from practice to see the offensive line rotation.
Sorry, you can't get it because someone might call.
Yeah, so I wish there was different. Spring ball was different, but the scrimmage idea is interesting. Yeah, I don't know if up for that. Colorado, by the way, this year, I watched a lot of Shedeur Sanders, and their offense is rough, and they got a lot worse on offense this offseason. We're losing 4 wide receivers in Shedeur.
So, by the way, Mel Kiper says Shedeur's climbing back up draft boards right now.
Both him and DJ had Shedeur going 3 to the Giants today in their mock drafts.
This is maybe the most important thing I'm going to ask you today, aside from an obscure mascot challenge question. Are you aware that Travis Hunter has a brother
Yes.
named Travis Hunter?
Yes.
It's the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
What would be the equivalent for like his name was like closely related to mine?
Jeff is a hard one.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe he's Jeff with a J.
You're Jeff with a G and he's Jeff with a J. Or like he's Jeffrey and you're just Jeff.
My name is Jeff.
Yeah, that's the difference.
Yeah.
I saw that on the internet and I loved it so much. Travis Hunter, younger brother, Travis Hunter. One letter separates the two names.
It's awesome. Obscure Mascot Challenge, by the way, is best done in the women's bracket because there you get some teams like out of nowhere. Just
absolutely,
like the most random teams of all time. Do you have is your bracket up? Your radio bracket up yet? Like your challenge, whatever.
It's not.
Cool.
It's not up yet. ESPN700sports.com for the $1 Million Bracket Challenge. Jeff Schwartz is going to be part of our ESPN 700 pool. You can play against him. You can play against me, James, Gordy, Spence, Porter, all those guys. Jeff is included as a friend of the program, so to speak.
Oh, I love it. So basically like it's some game theory, right? So I just basically have had BYU losing to VCU probably. I just passed like most of your audience already.
Yes. Well, I don't know actually because
UCLA beating Utah State, and like if I just eliminate the Utah teams early, I have a leg up.
If you actually think that's what's going to happen, but I don't think that both of those teams.
I think UCLA is going to win. I think UCLA is going to win. I don't know VCU, BYU. It's just a coin flip to me, coin toss. Like it's BYU. Both teams can score. Can score. So I think it just depends on who's got a few stops at the end of the game.
All right, before I cut you loose, I'm going to give you some low-hanging fruit. For those who don't know, Jeff Schwartz played for the Panthers, ended up settling after his career in North Carolina. And I'm going to give you an obscure mascot from the state of North Carolina, Jeff. Okay. The UNC Wilmington plays Texas Tech. What is the UNC Wilmington mascot?
I believe they're the Seahawks.
They are the Seahawks. Well done. In your home state.
I had no idea. High Point, no idea.
You are you're 2 out of 3 on the obscure mascot challenge today. That's pretty good.
Oh, is High Point like the High Point? That's like an hour north. That's like an hour north of us.
High Point University is like the bougie university. It's like where you go and you learn how to be a CEO. They have like a Ruth's Chris on campus that they teach kids how to be fancy. Yeah.
High Point is also like where you get your like all the custom furniture that's made in the country. I think is like from the High Point region.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's where we like when we shopped furniture, which has been thankfully a while. My wife goes up to High Point to market up there. That's like that's like the spot to go.
That's a flex from Jeff Schwartz that he only buys custom furniture. That's the rest of us are rocking the IKEA, but Jeff has to get the custom stuff.
I break the IKEA furniture.
Fair.
That is why. I broke Meredith's couch when we first met, like immediately in 2008.
Oh, fantastic. First world problems for the former offensive lineman in the
absolutely.
NFL. All right, dude. Appreciate your time, as always.
Send me the
Talk
link.
soon.
Send me the link.
I'll send you the link.
The thing. Okay.
Okay. The link that Jeff needs to get is for our $1 Million Bracket Challenge. A perfect bracket wins you $1 million. ESPN700sports.com. Click on the $1 Million Bracket Challenge. Stay on top of the homepage and log in. Make picks, and you can run against us. Jeff, James, Alonzo's probably going to fill out a bracket. The $1 Million Bracket Challenge is brought to you by Budweiser, Clearwater Distilling, Overtime Cards and Collectibles, and Big Willie's. We are marching toward the end of the show here at Les Schwab Tires up in Riverdale. Come say hi to us. Plenty more to discuss. Alex Jensen was introduced in his press conference yesterday. We have some more sound that we did not get to earlier in the show. Play some of that for you next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Oh, rolls it right over the top of the rim, and the rebound. One bounce, Kessler. Put it up, put it down, and one.
That's a beautiful move by Walker Kessler.
A little Walker Kessler highlight. And one from last night's 111-97 home loss for the Utah Jazz. Sound courtesy of Smith Entertainment Group Media. Craig Bolerjack, Thurl Bailey on the call, as always. We got some tickets to give away coming up for Obscure Mascot Challenge. 877-353-0700 is how you always get a hold of me on the Dish Pros text line. We're at Les Schwab Tires today, so come hang out. Have a little bit of fun. We just had one of our great listeners stop by. Appreciate him. He's got a small business up here. I'm gonna run by, see what he's got going on after the show. Riverdale Road, Les Schwab Tires. Great deals going on right now, and they've been gracious enough to host us today. All right, yesterday we were at the Huntsman Center at the University of Utah for the introductory press conference for Alex Jensen. One of the legendary players in the program has returned officially to be the head coach. We played some sound for you a little bit earlier. One of the main questions, James, get cut number 4 ready if you don't mind. One of the main questions for Alex Jensen was, hey, you're getting a lot of phone calls from former teammates. You're getting a lot of outside influence telling you who they would like to be part of your coaching staff. Alex Jensen talked about how he's going to make the decision on his assistant coaches.
Making the decision, like I'm going through the extreme due diligence, and I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and a lot of people want jobs, but again, I'm taking my time, and I've spoken to a lot of teammates recently, but I want to take my time and do it right instead of rush it. In fact, I've talked to a lot of former college coaches that have said that. Take time with your staff and do it and get it right.
Take your time, do it, and get it right. Alex Jensen is taking that approach. A lot of his answers had that general theme to them. Hey, I'm going to be thoughtful. Mark Harlan, when he talked about Alex Jensen and the conversations they had, he brought that up multiple times. So this is a conscientious guy who's really kind of like he's being very diligent in deciding what kind of players he's going to bring in, what kind of assistant coaches he's going to bring in. But the quiet part that we could say out loud on the home of the Utes is everyone wants to know if Andre Miller is going to be part of this staff. I am not breaking any news right now, but I am very confident that Andre Miller is going to be part of Alex Jensen's staff. Now, there are rules. Remember, Jensen is finishing out his year with the Dallas Mavericks, so this is kind of an odd timing scenario. He had to fly in and do a press conference and be introduced, and now he's back. He's going back to Dallas to do his job, his actual job right now, to finish things out with the Dallas Mavericks. Andre Miller, of course, is the head coach of a G League team right now, and the G League season ends in a couple of weeks. I don't think we're going to get any official announcements from the university, from Andre Miller, from Alex Jensen. I don't think we're going to get any official announcements until then, until the G League season is over, until Grand Rapids is done. Now, I was told, again, hashtag sources, and this actually makes a lot of sense, that in the G League there's particularly strong language in your contract about making announcements on taking other jobs and on kind of like doing interviews and the transition period of being a coach in the G League and maybe looking for other jobs. And it makes sense because everyone in the G League is looking for another job. We talked about this with Gordy. You heard Alex Jensen talking about it. We talked about it with Andre Miller when he joined us on the show. Everybody in the G League is looking for another job. Everybody in the G League is trying to climb the ladder. Everybody in the G League wants to be somewhere else. Even if they're happy and grateful and doing a good job where they are at, like Andre Miller is not he's not killing it right now with Grand Rapids. Now, that's not necessarily a commentary on Andre because you can only work with what you got from a personnel standpoint. But everybody in that league is keeping at least one eye on the future and one eye on the horizon for a better job. And I think that that's exactly the reason contract language is so strong in the G League to say, hey, if you're here for the season, you're here for the season. You know, you can penalize people with buyout numbers and things like that. For that reason, I don't believe we're going to get an announcement about Andre Miller before the G League season wraps up. James, you and I were both up there at the introductory press conference and having, conversations sometimes with the same people, sometimes with different people. Were you able to farm any information on not only Andre Miller but the rest of the names that might be part of Alex Jensen's staff?
Nothing more than what you had said, what you just said. I also no one's saying directly Andre's going to be on the staff, but the sense is everybody's sort of expecting that at some point. So I'm with you. I feel pretty confident that at some point we're going to hear that announcement. What's interesting about this, I remember last season when this time of year when Kevin Young was hired at BYU and he was the lead assistant for the Phoenix Suns. Did you know that, OC? Did you know that he was the lead assistant for the Phoenix Suns? I don't think that's been talked about.
I haven't heard that Kevin Young was involved in the NBA at all, actually.
No, but that's obviously been a main talking point. But I remember back then going, I wonder how this is, because he also said I'm going to finish the season with Phoenix, and they made the playoffs, which we don't expect the Mavs to at this point. They'll probably be in the play-in tournament, but they're not making it out of the play-in tournament more than likely. So Kevin Young actually stayed on for their first-round series that the Suns lost to the T-Wolves last year, and I remember going, and I think other people were thinking this too, how is this going to affect recruiting? Because the perception is once you take a job in college athletics, you need to start recruiting right then, right? But Kevin Young and his staff at BYU, they've kind of debunked that by putting together a really talented roster, obviously, and talented enough to get the 6th seed and go on an 8 game win streak at the end of the season, and get top 20 ranking, almost top 15 ranking in the AP poll before the NCAA tournament. And he really didn't start doing his job, his BYU job, and finish filling out his staff until, after end of April, early May. So I think if Utah fans are concerned about, hey, he needs to start recruiting now. I know he feels some loyalty to the Mavs and because he's under contract, he wants to finish that season, but he needs to tell them, no, I need to be here for my new job. I think you can look at what happened in Provo and maybe that should help you calm down those fears of, hey, we're going to be too late getting started on recruiting here and filling out this staff, because Kevin Young, he's going to wait probably even longer last season than Alex Jensen will this season to truly get started on that process. I think we might have lost connection with OC out in Riverdale. Les Schwab Tires out in Riverdale right now. That's where he is. If you need new tires, head on out there. Go say hi to OC. If you need new tires, this is a rough day to be needing new tires with all the snow falling. So head on out to your local Les Schwab Tires, or if you want to go say hi to OC as well and you're in the Ogden, Riverdale area, head on out to the Les Schwab on Riverdale Road in that area. We will effort getting him back, getting the connection reestablished there. We apologize for these technical difficulties we're experiencing right now. We're going to head to a break. We'll reestablish the connection. We will end the show here. We'll have topical trivia on the other side. If we can get that connection reestablished with OC, he'll give out the obscure mascot challenge. If not, yours truly will be doing that. We'll get it sorted here on a Tuesday. Again, OC live at Les Schwab in Riverdale. Head on out there if you are in the Ogden, Riverdale area. Need some new tires, need some service done on your car. Les Schwab is the place to be. This is the Sean O'Connell Show. James Peterson, OC, hopefully back on the other side. On ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network.
All right. Giving away 2 tickets to Collective Soul at Utah First Credit Union. They're coming in July 13th. 877-353-0700. All the tickets today we're giving away on the Obscure Mascot Challenge. I haven't even really tested people yet because I haven't gone into the women's bracket. I haven't gone into the NIT bracket. St. John's, the Red Storm of St. John's, is a 2 seed. They're taking on the 15 out of Omaha University. 877-353-0700. If you can tell me the mascot of Omaha, you will get 2 tickets to Collective Soul. That's how you win your tickets today as we wrap up the Sean O'Connell Show from Les Schwab Tires here on Riverdale Road. It's been a blast being up here. We've seen the folks coming in, picking up new tires. Chris has been kind enough to accommodate our needs here, and he'll do the same thing for you if you're looking for some tires. Chris, you got $60 instant savings. You got a lifetime warranty. You got fast service. You can get these tires slapped on in like an hour or so. And I'm seeing, once again, this is sleet, this is hail, this is that little pebble snow. You need good tires right now in this Utah weather. Absolutely. I had to turn on your microphone. You need okay. My fault. So it's not just while I'm here that you're running these deals, right? These deals are going on all through the spring.
Yep, all through this month and carrying on to the next month as well.
Okay, I want to talk about that warranty one more time that we touched on in the first. So if I buy a set of tires from Les Schwab Tires and I roll out of here, there's a bunch of construction going up and down Riverdale Road and all over the place. And let's say I just roll over a nail and I puncture that tire. That's a huge hassle, but you're going to replace that tire for free.
If you run over a nail, we'll repair that tire for free.
Okay.
And if it needs to be replaced, then yep, absolutely.
That's unbelievable because, I mean, it's not your fault that I ran over the tire.
Nope. We take care of our customers just from regular, everyday road hazard problems.
Okay. When are you guys open today, all week long, on the weekends? When can people come into Les Schwab Tires?
Yep. We're open 8 to 6, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 on Saturday, closed Sundays.
All right. Make sure you come in, check out all the tires, all the great deals. Take advantage of that lifetime warranty, the best warranty in the business. The best tire warranty in the business is the better way to say that. They've got $60 instant savings right now on tires. And it's not just I quizzed Chris earlier on this. I was like, well, what if I need – my wife drives a Kia Telluride. You got tires for Kia Tellurides?
We do.
I can qualify for discounts on those tires even?
Absolutely.
And on my Mazda?
Absolutely.
What if I drive like a 1987 Lincoln limousine? You got the tires I need for that?
We got the tires for that too.
That's what James drives. That's my producer, James Peterson. He drives a limousine around. Chris, thanks for having us up here today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
All right, come see Chris. I'm going to be getting out of here, but you can come see Chris and take advantage of the great deals at Les Schwab Tires anytime here on Riverdale Road or any of the other locations up and down the Wasatch Front.
It's terribly inconvenient driving a limo around, I have to say.
Well, it suits you, personality-wise.
I appreciate it.
Did you know the mascots in the Obscure Mascot Challenge?
Do we have an answer yet? Or we
do.
Are we spoiled?
We do.
Okay. For some reason, I'm thinking Hawks in the name, so I'm gonna go with Skyhawk.
And nope, it looks like 7889 on the text machine is on the Dish Pros text line at 877-353-0700 is the first correct answer. The Omaha Mavericks.
Mavericks.
Yes.
Of course. Yeah, that's fitting for the area.
Fun fact, they're actually named after the Top Gun fighter pilot, Maverick.
Oh, really?
Yeah, their mascot is just Tom Cruise. That's probably not true.
It should be. They're actually named after Dirk Nowitzki.
Omaha finds themselves 18.5-point underdogs to the St. John's Red Storm. That game will be played at 7:45 local time, March 20th, a couple days from now, on CBS. James, which of the networks that carry the March Madness tournament do you prefer? CBS, True TV, TBS, TNT, they all get a little piece.
I think probably CBS just because tradition, nostalgia, what I got used to growing up. I'll tell you the one I prefer least, it's True TV.
How dare you?
Like, this might be a Friday grievance. Maybe this is a teaser grievance for Friday, but like, you have CBS Sports Network. Just put your other games that you want to put on True TV. Just put them on your sports network. I don't understand why CBS Sports Network doesn't get any of the tournament games. I know it's the more obscure thing, but obscure channel in CBS's package. But like,
look,
it's not as obscure as True TV.
You lost me when you said you don't like True TV, because one of the best things ever is you watch an inordinate amount of college basketball, and then immediately after the post game is done, you get Impractical Jokers, just one episode after the other, or like some random Carbonaro effect type thing.
Don't they?
Don't
they also do like top 10 commercials of the year programs that are usually super obscure commercials too on True TV, or is that old program?
I don't know.
Yeah.
James, well done today.
Thank you.
Proud of you.
Thank you, boss. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you for shouting out my limo too.
Yes.
The world needed to know.
The world needed to know that James drives a limo. Not for hire, by the way. You can't rent it, and he won't drive you around. It's just what he likes to drive. He likes to
It's
live
not
in
the
lap
kind of
luxury.
limo you'd like to ride in. It's an old, messy car limo. Yeah, I voted messy car on your poll.
That was another poll question I put out there today. I thought I was going to have to turn in my car for a little inspection today, and I probably still have to. And it's embarrassing when you hand the keys over when you're going to get like an oil change, or you're going to get a new set of tires put on, and your car, someone gets in there and they're just like, "Oh my gosh." They don't say it out loud, but you know they're just judging you harshly.
You see the look in their eye.
Yeah, they're like, "What's wrong with you?"
And you just want to say, "I'm sorry."
There's two kinds of people. There's messy car people and there's clean car people. I, unfortunately, am a messy car person.
See, I thought you might be a clean car person and you'd be judging me harshly for voting messy car. I'm also a fellow messy car person.
That makes me feel a little bit better. Where is Spence Checketts in the drive today?
He is in studio. I'm looking at him right now from behind the glass. He just raised his fist in the air. He's pumped and ready for some Alex Jensen press conference reaction and much more on the drive.
No, see, Spence just brandished his fist in a threatening manner at you, James. That's what actually happened.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
All right? He was shaking his fist at you aggressively. Let's file a complaint with HR. Thanks to everyone who joined me on the show today. Thanks to all of you for listening. Thanks to everyone who stopped by here at Les Schwab Tires. Come take advantage of the great deals and the great tires at 627 West Riverdale Road. Everybody drive safe out there. It snowed, and now it stopped snowing. I'm going to have to get home before it starts pouring again. Stay tuned for the Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700.